everybody, and welcome to episode 220, which has come a week earlier than we said it was going to, because we got our dates mixed up. Me and Phil are going to be skipping next week, so episode 221 will be coming a week later than the weekly cadence. It doesn't matter, it's episode 220, everybody, of the Warhammer podcast known as Look Out Sir. I'm Dan, and it's Phil. How you doing, bro? You okay?
Yay, I'm here. Yeah.
You are here. There you are.
Are you okay, Dan?
I'm not the best, mate. I'm a little bit down in the dumps, really. I've had a bit of the bout of sickness, to be fair. I've been dealing with COVID or seasonal flu or whatever it is. I went to a wonderful concert on Friday night in London town to see a band called Basement. It was a great time. I'm now covered in bruises from jumping around in a mosh pit and carrying around terrible lurgy. Terrible idea, really.
If you will bump up to next to strangers, that's you get what you deserve.
That's it. Sweaty strangers in a dark London club or gig venue. But no, it was a lovely time, so that was good. But yeah, been down with the sickness the last couple of days, which hasn't been great. I actually discovered, Phil, it's a very sad bit of news, but a YouTuber that I liked on the internet, one of the Game Chasers, sadly passed away recently as a result of a brain tumour. So that was very sad to see. All condolences, loves and feels towards Billy and the team over at Game Chasers. Not that they have any knowledge that Look Out Sir exists, but I've always really enjoyed that show over the last 15 years that I've been watching it. So it's a mad thing when social media influencers, YouTube celebrities, if you will, that you've been following on the internet for years start dropping dead. It's a horrible thing. So terrible thing. So, although by all accounts, he gave away his organs in a good fashion, and also died in a very sudden and relatively painless manner. So I suppose in some respects that's some good news, I guess, if you're optimizing the way you're going out. But yeah, sad news there. But otherwise, mate, no, life is all right, really, isn't it? I mean, I'm still here, at least, I suppose, for the moment. I'm just a bit sick. But other than that, everything's great. But recommend, even though they obviously won't be making too much content on it anymore, go check out Game Chasers. There's a great show about retro game collecting. I loved it.
Oh, interesting.
I still do love it.
I can't say I've ever heard of them, so I might have to check them out.
I'll give them a go. Billy and Jay, the Game Chasers, or now I suppose just Jay, sadly. But anyway, there we go. I don't know why I felt compelled to shout that out. It was just a really somber moment for me today, where I was reflecting on it. I guess it's weird in a way because it's sort of like the footage of him when he was in hospital kind of triggered memories of my dad dying earlier this year. So I sort of had a bit of a weird kind of a kind of second coming, if you will, as I was watching that today. It kind of brought back a lot of deep feels. So there you go. Maybe that's what inspired that little moment. But what inspired episode 220, Phil? I'm dying to hear, although hopefully not.
Well, if you are going to donate your organs, you might as well do it to the Omnissiah with Codex Imperial Knights. That is what we are talking about today.
Does the Omnissiah have much use for human organs? The flesh is weak, Phil.
Well, exactly. You are donating them to replace them with something else.
That's true. You too could be in charge of opening doors.
Exactly.
The most likely outcome for all of us in the 41st millennium. But yeah, no, it's great. We're going to talk about Imperial Knights. We were tempted to talk about the new balance changes to Age of Sigmar, but then we realised most people don't care, although we do deeply. But maybe we'll get around to talking about that in an episode in the future.
Maybe we'll just do an old school mini outro, not an hour-long one, but a very small one where we just talk about it, because to be honest, there wasn't really much to talk about, I don't think.
Well, fine. Maybe we'll squeeze that in at the end, but the bulk of it is Imperial Knights, maybe a little bit of Age of Sigmar at the end. Sorry, I keep needing a cough, it's terrible. The old lung butter there. Oh dear.
Get your lung replaced with a door opener.
Oh, good. Absolutely. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Rather that than a doorstop. That'd be no good to me. Anyway, yes, so that's that. That's the episode. Obviously, thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. We had a new patron the other week, which was super amazing and lovely. Thank you so much to that individual for actually doing that, because it really was awesome. It's so rare, but also so lovely when we get new patrons that we obviously have to just shout it out. Although, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the individual. Can you Phil?
I think it was a guy called Dave, I want to say.
Good old Dave. Thanks, Dave, for being a patron. And if you'd like to be like Dave or any of the other patrons, come join us. It's a great time. We don't do much of anything to deserve your money other than what we give you.
It was Daniel. I was close.
Oh, I had that, throughout my whole life, Anyway, doesn't matter. Good. Well, lovely to have you on board, Daniel. Anyway, yes, as I say, so Patreon exists. Well done, Daniel and others who want to support us there. We appreciate and love you dearly. Additionally, we have merchandise, which I understand Daniel also bought. I mean, he went all in. There you go. What a legend.
Oh, he said that. I hope Lee from Rev Level will send that money to us, because we haven't had any of that in a while. But hopefully it will appear, and he's not just skimming off of us.
Could you imagine if we were like his most popular line, and he's just been, keeping that to himself for such a long time? I don't think we are.
Booking himself some holidays. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, Lee's a good egg. So, if he's skimming stuff off the top, he's quite welcome to it. And then also 5-star reviews, obviously. Amazing that people give us 5-star reviews. Hilariously, Phil, I've discovered a new website that will amalgamate my reviews, our reviews, I should say. Sorry, Phil, I was getting a bit grandiose there. And there's apparently an entity called Podcast Addict that has a bunch of 5-star reviews on it that we've never read before. So this week's 5-star review will be the newest of the Podcast Addict reviews by an individual called Dave. Not Daniel, but Dave.
An actual Dave.
Maybe that's where I got confused. Or no, you got confused. Yeah, absolutely. An actual Dave. Although there's 2 Daves that have left us 5-star reviews. I think, there's there was a Dave without and a Dave with. It's a confusing mess of a thing, really. But anyway, long story short is we've got a 5-star review and we're going to get on with it right now. Transitional noise. This is the 5-star review that has come via Dave of Podcast Addict. No idea where in the world that is, but or even what the service is, really. But apparently they are in the business of giving us 5-star reviews, and Dave has done so we're going to shout it out here over the internet. Cheers very much, Dave. Thank you very much, Podcast Addict. I'm still ill, I apologise. Right. A delectable delight upon the ears. Many a long working day spent listening to the back and forth between these two highly entertaining gentlemen, sharing their pearls of wisdom with many knee-slapping comments. I wrote this with Dan's voice in my head the whole way through, and it's an undeniable influence. Has undeniably influenced the manner in which I am typing. Great show, great content. Looking forward to many more episodes to come. Well, obviously, Dave, 3 years ago when you left this review of Podcast Addict, I dare say there's been a few more in the interim. And as we always like to say and acknowledge when reaching out or acknowledging those of you who have left us reviews far in the past, hope you're still with us. Hope you're still alive. Don't be dead, Dave. That would be rubbish. Do let us know if you are not dead, Dave, because, that would bring us nothing but, joy. I'm sorry, everyone, by the way, as well. I am well aware that we have referenced death far too many times in this introduction, but it is Warhammer, isn't it? What is Warhammer if not a celebration of life? I sort of moved in on it there. But not that we get monetized on YouTube anyway, Phil, but we're definitely going to get in trouble for this intro.
I do.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, come on, Phil. Say some words in support of Dave's 5-star review, which is obviously massively appreciated. Cheers, Dave. You're a star. And to elaborate on that further, here's Phil.
They're all dead, Dave. They're definitely all dead. But thank you very much for your kind words. Yeah, we hope you're not dead and that you are still alive and kicking 3 years later we can only apologise, but, you know, we always say reach out and tell us where you leave a 5-star review, and no one followed the instructions. So all of these people deserve to be at the back of the queue for having their 5-star review read out. But we're finally here now. We're finally doing it. We appreciate you all the same, even though no one told us. But thank you very much, Dave. You are not dead.
We hope.
We hope.
We hope. That's not an admittance of something, you know. Anyway, moving on. It's the episode now. We're going to talk about the Imperial Knight Codex. Cheers, everyone. Transitional noise. Oh, I tell you what, mate, with the way my lungs are working today, I might be dead before too long, so I'll try and be more measured for the rest of this. I had to have a bit of a coughing fit between hit and record there, didn't I, to level myself out. But we're talking about Imperial Knights, aren't we, Phil? Isn't that exciting?
We are one of the last, nay, penultimate codexes.
Do you know, Phil, that the Imperial Knight miniature, the model known as Imperial Knights, I believe, came out 10 years ago now?
I was going to say it's cracking on a little bit, but it's doing well.
It's putting in the numbers. They've sold an awful lot of that Imperial Knight kit, and it's mad, really, when you consider at no point have they ever meaningfully come up with a new pose for it. You know,
I was going to say the legs could do with a redo, but I was going to say, can you guess or speculate how many upgrade sprues they have released over the years for the Knights?
Well, yeah, there's the baseline sprue, so that's obviously the thing. So upgrade-wise, I would suggest that there have been, in terms of total sprues, I'll say, I don't know, because I don't know how many sprues
well, let's say,
comes with.
like, I guess, yeah. Because you got your base kit, then you've got they did the upgrade kit, which had the missiles on top. That was one. Then
yes,
they did... I guess Canis Rex is technically an upgrade sprue, because that was like obviously Canis, different weapons arms. Or was that a new...
I feel like Canis came
Does that not count?
Yeah, I think Canis... I think the Warden, the Gallant, the Warden, the... not the Errant. The Errant was there from the start. So the first two were the Paladin and the Errant. Then they gave us a kit that basically gave us the Warden, the Crusader, and the Gallant. And then that basically added the Gatling cannon, and I believe the Knight Perceptor was also part of that, along with the Canis kit as well. So I feel like that was 2 sprues. So I feel like those were 2 sprues, and then I'm guessing the Defender's 1 sprue. So I'm going to guess 3, Phil, is what I'm going to say. That
would be my assertion as well, but obviously I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I wondered if you were in the same sort of ballpark.
I think we're coming at it from the same kind of place, mate. Yeah, when did the Imperial...
It would have been 7th edition, I believe.
No, 6th.
Was it at the end of 6?
Yeah. Oh, it came out in 2014. It's 11 years old now.
Oh.
Double digits. Living the dream. Oh, there you go.
Positively due for a redo based on how Games Workshop likes to do things nowadays.
Well, exactly. If it was a Stormcast Eternal, my God, it would be getting taken out to the wood chipper,
I think,
blown
honestly,
away.
For the most part, the kits held up pretty well. But as you say, I think if they did an alternative... or posable legs, let's say. If they could do a kit that was posable legs, that would be well worth it, because the arms are sort of posable already, but there's not a whole lot you can do with that sort of top half.
No, indeed.
I do find it a bit puzzling that the new Knight, if we can get into that straight away, isn't an upgrade for the larger chassis like the Valiant variant, because that sort of feels like having a shield dome on top with the big plasma and I actually don't know what the other one's called, the other gun it's got. But I feel like that would be more appropriate for... Oh, it's a conversion beamer, isn't it? Is it a conversion beamer?
Yeah, conversion beamer and a massive a massive plasma as well, or whatever it is. Yes.
Yeah, which sort of feels like, because obviously you've got the plasma on the Castellan already, it feels like it should really fit on there, basically.
Well, these are those things that you think should be the way they are, but turn out to be different in practice, you know?
I know, but that is the way.
But I do think that, yeah, it would have made a lot more sense, but I don't know, maybe it's just easier for GW to come up with, or... I don't know, you're right. I feel like, yeah, it should have probably been a new variant for the bigger knights, right? Because, I mean, again... those bigger knights have got 2 fusion cores, right? Like, they've got 2 cores that... were they fusion cores? Whatever they were. They've got 2 engines. So, yeah. Like, yeah. I just sort of feel like it would have made more sense for it to be on that, because then it could make sense that the power load came into effect. But, unfortunately, no. It's on the... It's on the regular chassis.
I do, yeah. Part of me thinks, did they go, well, that kit sells really well, and the Dominus class, which is the bigger 2,
yes,
aren't as popular. And maybe it's quite cynically that's why they've done it, because people like the mid-sized knights, even though they used to be at one point the big knights.
Yeah.
Who knows?
One of the things that confuses me as well, though, right, is, again, yet another weird instance where there was a interesting opportunity where they could have potentially acknowledged and looked into, you know, mechanics that could have dealt with distribution of power, right? And the idea that, you know, maybe a Knight Defender could have had, like, a really interesting gameplay mechanic where it deploys within your deployment zone, and it is assumed to be... you know, when it's in your deployment zone, it's assumed to be, you know, charged, and it's got like a, you know, like an umbilical cord, to use Neo Genesis Evangelion terminology, where it's like, okay, it's plugged in, and when it's plugged in, this is its profile, because basically it's got all this stuff. But the problem is if it moves, it becomes unplugged, and when it's unplugged, it's not as good, because it needs a lot of juice, you know? Or maybe it could have been a thing like, in order to utilize its defensive capabilities, it has to not shoot, or it has to not move, you know? Like, the idea of you being asked to make, like, compromises. Like, I feel like with the Knight Defender, but all Imperial Knights, I feel like it would make more sense if you could have had, like, a charge mechanic where you were going, okay, in my movement phase, I'm going to spend 2 charge points, so as I can double move, I'm going to spend an additional charge point in my in my shooting phase, so as I can get additional ballistic skill or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, stuff that kind of speaks to the whole idea of controlling a robot. But they haven't done any of that. They just sort of went, whatever. It's 10th edition, isn't it? Just do whatever. Move on.
Yes. I think that's always the way. You can come up with these great and interesting rules, but then potentially they're going to slow the game down. But then, you know, as a sort of army,
it's an Imperial Knight army. You've got like 10 models. Who cares?
Well, that is true. I do like the idea of something along those lines, because it sort of taps into more along the lines of Adeptus Titanicus, and like the nuance that you get and the granularity of kind of controlling your Titans. And obviously these aren't Titans, but they should still have similar aspects, like whether, as you say, and this is obviously spitballing, and we talked about it very briefly in a previous episode a long time ago. So little knights get 1 point of power, average size knights get 2 points, and the big ones get 3. And you can shift that into your shields, your movement, and your firepower, and it's as simple as that. And it just affects those stats in some way. And much like how with Hellsmiths of Hashut, you can have maybe specific things that it tells you if it's got 1 point to it, it does this. If it's got 2 points, it does this. And if it's got 3 points, it does this. So yeah, I think there's different ways that you could visualize these rules. Well, visualize the gameplay with interesting rules that could be quite straightforward and aren't too complicated from a game's mechanic point of view, but would probably feel, I imagine, quite fun and give you some interesting choices and sort of flexibility, because you'd be like, cool, in this turn I'm going to go all aggressive and just put loads of like points into firepower, but then, you know, maybe in another turn you're doing more movement or defensive and stuff like that.
Yeah. And like the idea that, you know, certain like, because again, that could be really interesting, where the idea where certain command nodes, like the bigger knights, not only have their own power, but they have, you know, the option where they can distribute their power amongst other units. So like maybe it could be the, you know, rather than at the moment the really kind of quite boring rule of armigers get cover saves or get invuln saves, is it? I forget if it's invulns or cover, but the big boys like the Castellan and the whatchamacallit. Why have I lost them?
So they get the bondsman ability. Is that what you're talking about?
No, so they've got, yes, here you go. They've got the Ion Aegis, which is while friendly armigers are within 6's model, they get the benefit of cover. So again, like, all right, cool, why not? But like at the same time, it's like, could you not have just been like, actually though, yeah, if we talking about these kind of resource mechanics, being able to, like, you know, maybe you could have used some of your power to power them up further, so you could have like armigers with extra buffs and other things, and then thus incentivizing. I just think this is the thing. I just feel like, to me, and again, I've obviously read this, my general opinion of the Imperial Knight book, before we get into the particulars of it, is it's just a really boring, uninteresting set of rules that are powerful, but ultimately just speak to a game in a in a kind of end stage, boring period of time where we don't want to do anything interesting. We just want to get through it. We're not looking to do things fun or compelling. We just want to get to the end of it, give you this because you need it, and then move on to 11th edition. And I'm really hopeful that when we get to 11th edition, they're going to start getting creative again, because I feel like, say what you will about 9th edition, it was a madhouse, but at least the 9th edition Imperial Knight book and other books came up with some really interesting mechanics and stuff that kind of gave you the impression of playing, you know, big, stompy, powerful robots. This is just still, it's the least interesting Imperial Knights have ever been, in my opinion, but they are good. I think that's probably the key takeaway.
I think the background to it is it sounded like the index version, which has been in effect up until now, was also really good, right? And was doing well. Then they got toned down in the last balance. Was it the previous balance status slate? But
they actually recently just got a massive boost, actually. But anyway, over the last couple of weeks, or last month or two, they've been neutralized. They had a moment where they were a bit too good.
That's likewise with Chaos Knights, but then I think this book came out and it sort of buffed them back up again, because I think maybe this was written prior to realizing how good the index was, or I don't know what actually made them so good before, or if it was maybe their points had just been dropped to a point where they were really good.
Yeah, so the way they got really good before was that they were really cost effective. Now they're good just because they're just very powerful and they're very efficient. So they're just like, they're very tough to get rid of, although not as tough to get rid of as they used to be, because the army-wide feel no pain thing has gone away now. But they've got more wounds, they've got less toughness. But yeah, they're just tough to get rid of. And the thing is they efficiently kill the things that they point at. So, you know, you just kind of rock up next to a building, use your towering ability, look over it, murder the thing on the other side. They then attempt to retort. Quite often they will kill, but it takes a considerable amount more effort for a army to dispose of one Imperial Knight than it does to have one Imperial Knight dispose of an equivalent kind of like unit, as it were, in terms of like points trade. Like one Imperial Knight could pick up a 300-point unit pretty easily, whereas it takes multiple units to pick up a 400-point knight, and that's where the weird trade comes in. So they're very efficient in that sense. And obviously the thing that made them really strong before was that they had access to armigers in a really spammy way. And the armiger was crazy because it was obviously just a dreadnought type profile. And you just had loads of those and they just caused no end of trouble. Their OC was crazy. You know, everything about like the armiger spam stuff was a bit, you know, off the chain.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where with the flexibility of a build anything you want army, armiger only armies can exist, and it feels like they should be toned down. Because surely are they all characters? Because normally you've got to take one character in an army.
Armiger's a battle line, but there used to be a way that you used to make one armiger a character,
right?
So as the whole thing could work, basically.
That feels so thematically wrong, but I can imagine some people wanting to do it, and it's a bit like how some people would claim, "Oh, well, you can have the a dreadnought only army because that was a thing." Was it Dreadwing in Deathwing in Dark Angels, so therefore it's totally thematic for me to run this super spammy list. And so, I mean, you are doing a niche within a niche to describe something potentially lore accurate, but really you're just being that guy. And I feel like that's the same with armigers.
I feel like this is the thing, though. I feel like an all dreadnought army list isn't necessarily as egregious, at least from a fluff perspective, as a all armiger one, because armigers really are there as like the squires. They're the help.
So you should have some big knights.
Yeah, you should have some knights. Right?
That feels very. Yeah, that feels more correct.
Yeah. Whereas an army of dreadnoughts, you could imagine that, I don't know, maybe some Tyranids are attacking Baal, and they go, all right, well, better send all the dreadnoughts out, you know, because they might at any point be maintaining 6, 7, 8, 9 dreadnoughts, right? So they might just be like, all right, well,
this is the last stand.
Yeah. Like the Riders of Rohan, you know, the bit as they go out of Helm's Deep or whatever, like that kind of thing, you know, the backs up against the wall, unleash the dreadnought spam. So you can kind of almost justify the dreadnought stuff. The armiger stuff was always a little bit ridiculous, but they still let you take an all armiger list in this. The thing is, though, it's not anywhere near as good because they've got rid of the Fill No Pains and all the other bits and pieces, which, you know, was definitely becoming a bit of a crutch for the way the army played. I mean, I remember when Temp started, I was playing Imperial Knights off the back of 9th edition. I loved Knights in 9th edition, even though I didn't feel like they necessarily felt like I was piloting an army of robots. They felt like what I kind of would want in terms of the power fantasy of running Knights. Like, I liked the heroic nature of it, because I always ran House Griffith with the gallant charging forwards at breakneck speed. Like, in 9th edition, you could have a Knight Gallant, and it could move like 36 inches and then like charge 3d6 at the other end or something absolutely mad. And then you would basically heroically self-destruct it at the end. So like when they finally killed it, you'd be like, and now I blow myself up and then just detonate in the enemy deployment zone. And it was absolutely hilarious. So yeah, like I really digged 9th edition Knights. 10th edition Knights have always been consistently strong throughout. They're definitely one of those armies that when you turn up to like a club game against a more casual opponent, they definitely stat check people in really annoying ways. So I tend not to try and use them in casual gameplay situations because they are negative fun in a lot of instances, because a lot of people's armies aren't very well equipped to deal with them. And I think that's fundamentally what they tried to address here, but I think they've done it in a really unimaginative way. And I think this is the thing that I'm kind of getting at, is like, with the 10th edition stuff right now in a book like this, it's just like, it's just by the numbers. It's kind of what we gave you at the start, but tuned to be a little bit more balanced. I just feel like if I go back to old 8th edition, or old Ninth Edition, I felt like, you know, all the way throughout those editions, they kept trying to be creative and interesting with stuff. Like, you know, towards the end of 8th edition, we were getting stuff like Gene Stealer Cult, and they were going, oh, we've come up with this mad new system where you take tokens and you use those tokens to depict, you know, blips, and these blips to, you know, kind of leaning into the kind of aesthetics of the Alien franchise. So, you know, it's like you're scanning for the GSC and who knows who's really there, and it played into their kind of duplicative and kind of, you know, shock assault gameplay mechanics, and it was awesome. Whereas, like, you know, this is, yeah, I don't know. When we were getting to the end of 9th edition, I started praising the books for all the creativity and fun, mad stuff that was going into it, because I think they hit their balance. Codex World Eaters, Codex Guard, Codex Demons, amazing. This is lackluster off the back of a lackluster series of things. Although, to be honest with you, I didn't massively hate Votan. I thought Votan were pretty mid, but they were, at least I suppose they came up with a new system other than the grudge thing, so I can't be too negative about that. But yeah, on the whole, I don't know, man. Like, it just sort of feels like Emperor's Children was a miss, and this just feels like a miss. And I'm really concerned for what Dark Elder or Drakari are going to be, because it feels like that's probably just going to be another kind of by-the-numbers jobby. But we will see, won't we? I mean, it's going to be out in a couple of weeks, so we'll take a look at that. But we're reviewing or talking about Imperial Knights, Phil. Have you got anything before we get into it, or have I ranted enough?
No, I think you ranted enough. Although I was going to say, to give a counterpoint, I do wonder if a lot of the toning down of the mad rules is because they are sort of targeting the game towards tournament play, and therefore sort of to an extent speed, and unfortunately it means you do lose a lot of those sort of flavourful elements. What was interesting, briefly talking about the World Eaters and Guard, is we looked at those codexes and was like, oh wow, is this like a sort of a hint at things to come for the next edition, because they felt very differently designed, and designed in a way where they could still be playable in a new edition if they didn't index the game. So then it was quite surprising that they did index the game completely, when those two codexes specifically felt like, okay, these are designed to carry on into the next edition. But, you know, that's how things roll sometimes. Let's go on with it. Before we get to talking about the rules, let's do the general review of the cover, as we are always want to do. I actually think this is quite a good one. I sort of like the low down sort of ground level perspective looking up at the big Valiant. In fact, it's not. It's painted like a Valiant, but it's a Castellan, I've just realised. Deceptively painted in red.
I mean, Castellans can be red, mate.
No, there's one on the box art and it's blue. It is Ultramarines. Valiants are red. They go faster. That's how it works.
Well, back in the day, Valiants were always House Raven, which I believe was this colour scheme. So, you know, it's
yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, the Castellan in 8th edition was ridiculous. House Raven had a unique ability where you could reroll all ones, and that also accounted for all your shots. So you had like a gun that shot like 3D free, and every one you rolled on a D3, so a 1 or 2 you got to reroll as well. It was madness. Anyway, yeah, I dig the Castellan. I think, you know, again, I would suggest that proportionately speaking, I think they've not necessarily kind of brought the silhouette or the kind of aspects of the knight to life in a way that I would say shows it in its best possible light. I think it kind of loses some of its grandeur in the way that it's kind of put together, and I think not nearly as enough has been done to really emphasize the scale. Like, I felt like older Imperial Knight Codex covers did a much better job of showing you the kind of horrific, terrifying aspect of war that they kind of brought to bear, like the idea that this unit was a real kind of game changer on the battlefield. Whereas, you know, okay, fair enough, there's some presumably Chaos Space Marine geezer in the foreground shooting at his heels, and you obviously get the sense of scale that this is a lot bigger than a Chaos Space Marine. But I don't know, I feel like from an image perspective, I would much prefer to see the forces of chaos fleeing in terror as opposed to valiantly standing in front of it, shooting it in the ankles. It kind of sort of robs it of some of its grandeur, I would say. But overall, it's a perfectly fine piece of artwork. I'd say it's probably the weakest Imperial Knight cover ever, but it's fine, is what I would say.
Okay, fair. Well, let's move on to the rules.
Well, fair enough. So, those of you familiar with Imperial Knights before will be saying to yourself, oh, they got rid of the Feel No Pain. Feel No Pain used to be their army rule. Well, that's never actually been true, and I can tell you that as someone who consistently actually played the detachment of Imperial Knights that was made available over Grotmus, the Mechanicus detachment, because my opponents would always look at me bemused by the fact that when I'd say, they're like, oh, so you got Feel No Pain? It's like, no, Feel No Pain is not their army rule. And they'd be like, are you sure? It's like, no, Code of Chivalry is their army rule, and it always has been. And people never quite got their heads around that. But
how did they get their Feel No Pain before?
Because they only have one detachment, and that detachment rule.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, that was where it came from. It came from their one and only detachment until they introduced the Mechanicus detachment. And then, the Mechanicus detachment was notable in its underwhelmingness because it didn't have Feel No Pain.
I guess it's funny that they've had an entire edition where they've, for the most part, had one detachment. Then they got a second one at Grotmus, right? And now it's like, cool, here's a bunch more that you have just less than a year to play with.
Yes.
In fact, let me just see how many there are in total. 4. So it's not many.
It's a pretty pitiful selection, really, especially when you consider how much actual room for creativity there has been within Knights in the past. Like, I mean, again, 9th edition Knights, there was loads of variations that you could come up with. There was 2 entirely different houses
you had
free blades.
Yeah, so you had the system of Mechanicus aligned Knights, Imperial aligned Knights, which played, they played the same, but they had sort of effectively army rules that allowed them to play different. I mean, the data sheets were the same regardless, but you had these sort of army-specific rules. And then the free blades, which basically allowed each one to be completely individual and operate very differently. There was lots of different variants for them. There's a lot of rules on this army rule page. Do you want me to start? How do you want to divvy this out?
Go on, tell me about the Code of Chivalry, Phil. I have never heard of it.
Code Chivalric. So it says if your army is Imperial Fists, at the end of the read mission objective step.
Did you do that on purpose?
Do what on purpose?
Pronounce Imperial Knights as Imperial Fists.
Oh, is that what I said? Sorry.
It's all right. I thought you were just doing a bit.
If only I was that clever.
I know. Fair. All right, as you were.
Yeah, pretend as a yellow knight, everyone. Imperial Knights. Yeah. At the end of the read mission objective step, you must determine your army's oath for the coming battle. An oath consists of 2 parts, 1 deed and 1 quality. There are 3 options for each part shown below. To determine your army's deed, you can either select 1 deed or you can randomly select 1 deed by rolling a d6 and consulting the relevant table. No one would ever do that unless you're playing a fun, narrative, fluffy game, which you're obviously encouraged to do, but in tournament play, you would never do that. So it's odd they even give you that choice. The selected deed will describe what needs to be achieved in order to complete the deed. I was going to say, caveat it with, if you rolled, you should get an extra bonus for it to encourage you to roll. Then it would actually be a meaningful choice.
They used to have that in 9th edition, didn't they? When it was the free blades, they would have the ability to choose something, or you could roll 2d6 and take both.
Yeah, that was true. So it then says, to determine your army's quality, you can either select one quality or you can randomly select one quality by rolling a d6, blah, 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 same as before. Until the end of a battle, the ability described in the quality section applies to all models in your army with this ability. The first time your selected deed is completed, your oath is fulfilled, and until the end of the battle, your army becomes honoured, and you gain 2 CP or 3 CP if you randomly selected your deed and or quality. So there is a slight bonus of 1 CP. CP gained in this way are an exemption to the core rules that limit your CP to a maximum of 1 per battle round. You can randomly decide one or both, but you only need to do one to get the extra CP. You don't get 4 CP, say, for randomly deciding both of them. I guess let's alternate going through the deeds. So if you rolled 1 or a 2 for your deed, you get We Vow to Lay Low the Tyrant, which is at the start of battle, select one character model in your opponent's army. This deed is completed at the end of the turn if that character is destroyed.
And that is improved from what it was before, because previously Lay Low the Tyrant was destroy your opponent's warlord, so your opponent did actually have some degree of agency over what model was basically being targeted, whereas now obviously you pick what you want to kill.
Right, yeah, it's not just like the warlord, for example. What's interesting is I was going to assume that the deed, once you complete, you gain the quality, but it sounds like they're actually, these are 2 separate tables that are not at all linked whatsoever.
No.
But the visual design of them implies that doing one will give you the other. That was clearly my assumption, which is incorrect.
It's a totally reasonable assumption as well when you consider that the rule
the deed is the thing you have to do.
Well, yeah, and the rule up till this point has been the causality between Lay Low the Tyrant would then result in a particular bonus, right?
Okay.
So it used
so I'm not
to
too
be,
far off.
You're not too far off, mate. No.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, yet another reason why warlords are completely irrelevant in the game of Warhammer 40,000. So yeah, the next of the deed is this deed is completed at the end of your opponent's turn if you control more objective markers than your opponent. And that is accomplished or given to you if you roll a 3 or a 4. I mean, if you're going first and you're like, I mean...
it could be really easy to do.
I mean, why that's even a deed? It's like, oh, I've got one more objective than you. It's like
if
you play this game.
I mean, at the very least, it should be excluding the first battle round. Or take an objective
home objective, or do something. Not just do the basic thing in the game. It's like literally like, oh, roll a dice. Way, you got it. It's like, what's the flipping point? That is terrible.
Okay, a quick side note. Being honoured, other than giving you CP, does it link with other rules like the bondsman ability and stuff like that? Or does
there are some very, very rare, poorly documented instances where being honoured will have an impact on your ability.
Okay.
Yeah, but again... nothing really clearly denotes that, but it is referenced within a very small selection of stratagems and rules.
Yeah, so I can imagine so far you'd probably pick this one out of the 2 that we've seen so far, because this feels
of course, because it's absolutely effortless. It's just literally like, oh, cool, I've got that. And then what's the last of your deeds, Phil?
It's we pledge to reap a great tally, which you get on a 5 or a 6. So this deed is completed at the end of a turn if the number of destroyed enemy units is greater than the battle round number, even if those units are subsequently returned to the battlefield. So, for example, 2 destroyed enemy units in the first battle round. So you complete it if the number of destroyed enemy units is greater than the battle round. So in turn 1, you just need to kill 2 units. In turn 2, you need to kill 3. So it gets harder as the game progresses.
Yeah, and why you never pick it when you just pick... I'll just go...
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry, is it... There's one thing that it doesn't actually say. So it says, at the end of a turn, if the number of destroyed enemy units is greater than the battle round, it doesn't say if it's in the number of destroyed enemy units in total or just in this turn, because that makes a big difference. So is it the number of total destroyed enemy units has to be greater than 5 by turn 5 is actually relatively straightforward, whereas if it's per turn, it actually makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, rules as written. Yeah, it's just all. So basically, if I kill one unit in battle round 1, and then I kill a couple more at the end of battle round 2, then I've done 3. Then I get it at the end of battle round 2.
Yeah, that is what I would assume, but it
which again is
clarify either way.
But again, it's just literally these deeds, other than the character one, which they've made easier. It's the sound of one hand clapping. It's like you may as well just go. You just get it. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, it's like, it's so dumb. Like,
well, it's basically a sort of win more condition. If you can't,
it's not a win more condition. It's just
my point
are you sentient? Well done, carry on.
Well, to have more objectives than your opponent, to do that, you need to be winning the game at some point in your 5 turns. If you're not doing that, it's very unlikely you're going to be winning the game at all, although there are instances where you could have like a close draw or something like that. And likewise, if you're not destroying units, you're not really playing or winning the game either. So those two things feel like you will achieve them just by playing the game anyway. And to be fair, characters is a similar one, but characters are slightly harder because they're normally hidden inside other units.
Totally.
Wrapping them. So at least that one you have to sort of go out of your way to complete, I think.
To be fair, upon reflection, the fact that it's the second of the deeds, the hold more objectives, is completed at the end of your opponent's turn, I suppose at least makes it slightly more difficult.
Oh, gives them a turn to grab an objective. Oh, that's
so actually,
true.
Okay, I'll hold my hand up there. It's not quite that bad, but it still feels like quite an easy gimme. And what are you getting in return for that, Phil? You're getting CP, and you're also getting, with our martial valor risen overall, each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, you can re-roll 1 hit roll and you can re-roll 1 wound roll. So that used to be just a generic rule. You used to just get that in addition to the CP bonuses and stuff. So now you have to complete the deed to get the rule that you used to have baked in. So, okay.
No, you just get these anyway.
What do you mean?
So it says to determine your army's quality, you can either select one or consult relevant table. Until the end of the battle, the ability described on the quality selected applies to all models in the army. So, like I said, they're not related to the deed. The deed just gives you the CP plus being honoured. It doesn't give you the quality. You get the quality by default.
Your point was entirely valid. That is very confusing. It confused me.
Oh, right, okay. So even after I explained it to you, you still didn't realise?
No, exactly. I literally completely befuddled me. Okay, fine. So the deeds only relate to the CP-ness.
And being honoured.
And being honoured, which has some benefits elsewhere in the book. And the quality is just what you get. Okay, great. Okay, cool.
This is effectively, the quality is really your army rule, and then the deeds are an extra sprinkling on top. So you could. So in a way, doing the deeds all seem viable. So you could be like, actually, you know what? I will just randomly do them because I feel like these are all achievable super easy or relatively easy, just to gain that 1 extra CP that might be more useful. Whereas the quality, I think more people would likely pick. But yeah, as you said, reroll 1 hit roll or wound roll is pretty good. Obviously, randomly that's on a 1 or a 2. On a 3 or a 4, you get We Are Eager for the Challenge, which is adds 2 inches to the model's move characteristic and 1 to advance and charge rolls for this model, which is quite tasty, especially if you've got a lot of combat units.
And improve if you rolled a 5 or a 6, or you just picked Yet Shall Our Legacy Be Unsullied. You improve the model's objective control characteristic by 2 and its leadership characteristic by 1.
Boring.
Boring.
But I mean, I guess it is technically useful, but it always feels. I mean, out of the all of them, the hit roll and wound roll of 1 is infinitely more useful. Having extra movement can be quite strong, especially if you were maybe there's ways to deep strike models or have them come on from board edges. Then you're getting your plus to your charges. That's quite cool. And if you've got lots of combat units, that would probably maybe be more favoured. But all your big toys and your little toys have guns on them, so why wouldn't you be re-rolling? It is only re-roll 1 hit roll and 1 wound roll, so it's not all of them. Like at one point in, I think, was it 9th edition?
No, start 10th, they re-rolled everything, yeah.
Oh, it was at start of 10th. Oh, God. Well, it shows you how long ago it was.
Admittedly, I think they only re-rolled 1s at the start, but they re-rolled all 1s to hit and to win.
Yes. Yeah, that was it. So, yeah. I mean, but all of these are reasonably good, I would say.
Yeah. Bondsman abilities. So some Imperial Knight models have a Bondsman ability tagged with the word Bondsman. In your command phase, 1 or more models from your army with a Bondsman ability can use this ability. For each one that does, select 1 friendly armature within 12. Until the start of your next command phase, that armature model is affected by that Bondsman ability. So that can be reroll charges, that can be +1 to your ballistic skill, all sorts of stuff, basically. Only affects the armatures, does not affect bigger knights.
Correct, and you can't double up with them, so one armature can't have multiple Bondsman abilities.
Yeah.
Then there's Super Heavy Walker, so each time a model with this ability makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, it can move through models, excluding Titanic models, and sections of terrain features that are 4 inches or less in height. When doing so, it can move within engagement range of enemy models, but it cannot end that move within engagement range of them, and it can also move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches, but if it does, after it has moved, roll a d6. On a 1, that model is battle shocked. Ooh, so it just automatically happens. No leadership tests, which is a shame because obviously you've got a quality that does buff your leadership, but probably makes more sense.
Obviously, it's a 1 in 6 roll, so it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. But again, just take Canis Rex and he'll just go, don't worry about it. And it's fine.
Oh, well, we'll have to read his rule when we...
Canis Rex, his ability is like, oh, you're battle shocked, are you? Nah, don't worry. Carry on. Yeah. So, yeah. And then there's Free Blades, which is every model in your army has the Imperium keyword. You can include either 1 Titanic Imperial model. Basically, it's the Allies rules. You can take Imperial Knights in other armies. What we do. The one thing I was going to say about Super Heavy Walkers, actually, which is a really important distinction and something to always be looking out for, is yes, they can make a normal move over the top of models, excluding Titanic.
But can't charge.
Correct, yeah. So it can fall back and it can advance and it can move, normal move, but it cannot charge over stuff. So if you are screening with a unit and they are able to move towards you and then they go to charge, but they want to charge something behind that unit, they are not eligible to do so unless they would be by... They have to respect the unit that's in front of them for charge purposes. That's an important distinction that you should always remember.
Okay, so they can't charge... Because they used to be able to do that, didn't they? They used to just charge over units, didn't they?
They've never been able to charge over units. They've only ever been able to move over them. I had that as a rules dispute at Beachhead between myself and Paulie, because Paulie wasn't happy about the fact that... that the Imperial Knight player just walked over the top of his guys and then charged the other side. And I was like, well, he couldn't have charged you like that, but he can move like that. So it's like... Well,
clearly he should have moved his models in a way so his base couldn't have fitted in between them. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think at the time he was working on the assumption that you couldn't move. And again, it was a relatively recent change. Paulie's always a good egg. And he wasn't big enough. He was just a bit perplexed by it because it was like, what? Why is this working? And it's like... So, new rules are weird for Imperial Knights.
I'm glad regular Knights can move over terrain and that it's not stratagem or something, because I think it was at one point, wasn't it?
No, I don't think they've ever done it as a... Oh, they did. Yes, they did. There was a specific... Yes, at one point. But anyway, long story short, a pretty underwhelming but ultimately functional series of rules that work well for them there. So we've got 4 detachments. The first of them is a new one, called the Valor Strike Lance. And what does being in a Valor Strike Lance give you, Phil?
It gives you bold gallantry, which is each time an Imperial Knight unit from your army advances, you can reroll the advance roll, and each time an Imperial Knight unit from your army advances, until the end of that turn, ranged weapons equipped by Imperial Knight models in your army have the assault ability. That's pretty good, because it then means you can... Oh no, it doesn't mean you can advance and charge, but it does mean you're just running around the board with an extra... I guess, is it just D6? Yeah, I guess when you're advancing, it would be D6, or with the extra quality, D6 plus 1. It's all that they don't get, because obviously jet bikes get like turbo boost. So when they advance, they move like a big number. You would have thought knights would have like a flat number that they advance, but with their big legs and all that, but obviously not. But yeah, that's still quite interesting.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, when you consider that you can boost the movement by 2 with the ability, which gives them, on average, a movement of, 10, becomes 12. So they're now moving 12 inches plus D6 plus 1. So if you're taking that ability, so you can have an average of, you have the minimum of 14-inch move, and then obviously the maximum of 19. So, it's pretty good.
That's
19-inch
pretty
move.
good. It helps you get round all the annoying terrain as well. You can sort of move through.
And don't forget, Imperial Knights are still Titanic, so they still have towering, so they're still then also able to, slip a foot into a ruin and then make the whole thing essentially invisible to it. So with an up to 19-inch move, you can very easily position yourself in a way where you can just see through obscuring terrain and create firing lines. So it's a very obviously advantageous ability to give everything assault. It's pretty good out of the gate, I would say that.
Yeah.
For the way the Imperial Knights play.
That is true.
They've got enhancements. I have no particular preferences, so I'm just going to pick one at random, which will be the bearer of the Judicant's helm, because he doesn't love a helm. Imperial Knight models only, obviously. At the start of your shooting phase, select one Imperial Knight model from your army that's within 12 of and visible to the bearer. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by that selected model have ignores cover. Pretty handy.
Yeah, I think it's a bit boring, but yeah, it's basically
this whole book is boring, but it's effective.
It's a classic thing that is a rule used everywhere, and it basically gives you sort of an extra -1 AP in theory. I will go with bearer of the evanescent iron. Imperial Knight model only. At the end of the movement phase, select one other Imperial Knight model from your army that is within 12 and visible. I think that's basically a theme for all of these. You have to pick a knight and then pick another knight within 12 of it. Until the start of your next movement phase, that selected model has the stealth ability. Ooh. Now that is pretty tasty.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually
on
quite
a
useful.
big old knight, -1 to hit. That's strong.
Yeah, it's not bad. We've got Full Tilt is a stratagem for 2 CP. It is a battle tactic stratagem that happens in your movement phase. Up to 3 Imperial Knights. Now, this has already been FAQ'd, so it's now actually just 1. Before it used to be 3, now it's 1. Although I think they may have also errated the CP cost as a result. I can't remember exactly.
Because it's 2 at the moment, isn't it?
It's 2 at the moment, but anyway, I believe they've changed almost every instance of a stratagem where they said that it could affect 3 models and changed it to just 1. But anyway, what it does is until the end of the phase, add 2 to the move characteristic of your models and add 2 to the advanced rolls made for those models units. So that's 2 on top of everything you had before. So essentially, you could be the way this stratagem is written, you could have taken 3 units, given the ability to add 2 already, so they would have been adding 4, so they would have become movement 14. Then they would have been adding 1 already to their advances, then this on top. So then they would be adding 14 plus D6 plus 3, which would have been quite ridiculous.
Is a lot. I think because there's quite a few stratagems, at least in this page, where it says up to 3 Imperial Knights. And I think they should have just FAQ'd it to say, basically, 1 big knight or up to 3 armigers. That feels like a great way of dealing with it.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of things they could have done to be more interesting or come up with a way of kind of depicting some of the hierarchical structures within the Imperial Knight faction. But as I say, these rules are boring. So, I hate being that broken record where I'm like, this is just a bit underwhelming, but it really is.
Speaking of boring, I'm going through for the classic I'm going for the classic rotate ion shields. It's 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase. You select an Imperial Knight and you gain a 4-up invulnerable save. It's a classic. I had a quick look through to see if it was in any of the other detachments, because it could be like Armour of Contempt that's in all of them. It is not, so only this detachment can do it, which is interesting. Maybe a little bit sad, because I think it's the sort of thing every Knight player would want.
No, I agree. But I do admire the idea of them taking away some of the generic things. I think, like, Armour of Contempt in Space Marines, it's always a bit ridiculous that every detachment had that ability. I kind of feel like you do need to murder your darlings sometimes with this stuff. That
is completely true. And speaking of Armour of Contempt, I was thinking about it literally a day or so ago, going, it makes no sense. Your armour somehow just gets better because you played a stratagem. This isn't thematic in any way. It's not actually doing something. It's not like I'm raising a banner or throwing a grenade that does something cool or interesting, which is what these stratagems are meant to be. Rotating your ion shields is the verisimilitude of gameplay where your model's doing something awesome and, like, in the actual setting, doing something, and there's a cool rule. Armour of Contempt is like, it's just a game mechanic. It's not doing anything. So yeah, I'll just throw that in there.
I agree with you, mate. I think more definitely needs to be said and more needs to be consistently done by GW to actually try and insert, the kind of creative elements, I suppose, rather than just, I think one of the things that's really important to always remember is people do like to still be immersed in the fantasy, and people do still like the hobby aspect of things. And a lot of that is in the world building. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes mechanically there should be a reason for the fact that they do this stuff, but whatever. Rotate Iron Shields is an iconic piece of Imperial Knight fluffery. It has been with them since the beginning. It used to be a really interesting rule where basically the facing of your shield would alter. Again, an interesting mechanic that depicted the notion that you're controlling a robot, because you would go, oh, I detect threats in my rear axis. I will rotate my shields to protect my rump. Yep. Lovely.
And then your opponent had a tactical choice to either move or shoot them in a different direction, or just have to go with that. And that was, I think, the reason why they've done away with that is because facings on round bases are slightly difficult to do, I guess, for some people. And they just wanted to get away with any of that sort of slightly fuzzy gameplay aspects where people might have arguments like, oh, I can technically shoot it from the side and not the front. So, those sorts of things. So it's the same reason why we don't have templates and things. It's Games Workshop doesn't like you to have fun because you ultimately end up having arguments with people, which isn't fun.
Oh, I love an argument. It's the best. That's me at my best.
That's because you get to impose your strong will on your opponents and do it with joyous glee and make them enjoy it at the same time.
Oh, well, there you go. There's the old Stockholm syndrome coming in. What was I going to say? It's left my brain now what you were talking about there, but yes.
Well, that's fair. I was going to say they've also got Thunder Stomp, which is another classic old rule from editions ago, has made its way into a stratagem as well, which is great to see.
Sorry, I remember now, in terms of the Rotate Iron Shields, I felt like the only thing they could have tweaked with that back in the day as well, though, is if you had some kind of, like, dial or something that you could have had on the tabletop that would have, allowed you to secretly dictate where those shields were, because I always felt like that was one of the weird aspects of it, that you declared to your opponent where the shields were. You'd be like, And now the shields are on the side, and they'd be like, well, I'm going to then move to the other side. And you're like, no, if I had only not told them. Like,
right, yeah, because shields aren't like, I don't know, it's weird because Games Workshop sometimes in their animations shows especially void shields as a like a visible bubble, and then sometimes it's only visible when it's being shot at, which feels maybe would make more sense. So I guess in the way I've always thought about the rotate iron shield is you have the sort of the tilt shield on their chest. That is the actual sort of generator, and maybe that would move around a little bit left and right, but I don't know how it would represent it being behind you. I don't know at all.
Yeah.
Unless it's not to do with that at all, and it's just like inside from the generator.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, long story short, a pretty strong detachment with some pretty obvious applications and a number of the classic stratagems, rules, what have you, that, make a whole heap of sense. So, yeah, seems like a strong start. The next is the Gate Warden's Lance, which is a dauntless defender. So evidently something that is in the business of defending a stronghold, some kind of countermeasure or whatever.
It's the gatekeeper.
That's it. At the start of your first battle round, select 2 objective markers on the battlefield to be your foundations. When you draw a line from any part of one of your foundations to the other, if any part of a model's base or any part of the model's hull or model without a base, for a model without a base, crosses that line, that model's unit is said to be on your defensive line. Oh, I wonder what this could mean, Phil. Clearly you're some kind of spider or something and will immediately respond. While an Imperial Knight unit from your army is on your defensive line, okay, at the start of your first battle, select 2 objective markers. When you draw a line, crosses that line, that model's unit has been said to be on your defensive line. So if an Imperial Knight unit from your army is on your defensive line, that unit has the following ability. Against the Horde, each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a visible enemy unit, you can ignore any of all modifiers to hit rolls and weapon equipped by this model's have sustained hits 1. Okay, that's good. Each time one of your foundations is removed from the battlefield, e.g. by a primary mission rule, just after it is removed, select a new objective marker on the battlefield to be one of your foundations. Fine. Okay, fine. So you pick 2 objectives, draw a line. If you're on that line, you've got sustained hits 1 and suffer no modifiers to hit, which is pretty handy.
It's true. I'm just trying to think. I mean, this is a very sort of thematic rule. It's a little bit wordy, but I don't have a problem with that. I do worry though, in terms of what deployment zones you will have as options to you versus what objectives are available to you. So I sort of feel like quite often you're going to have to spend at least a turn or 2 just to kind of get a decent portion of your army onto that defensive line. And there might be times when it's, you're going to struggle basically. Because on average, you have normally just 1 objective in your deployment zone. So you'd probably go, well, I'll pick that one and another one that's in the midfield. So you're always like at a weird angle. It's interesting. It's hard to imagine how this will play out without seeing some deployment zone sort of setups.
I mean, for better or ill, though, it's a pretty meaningful buff. I assumed when I was first reading it there that maybe something was going to trigger when your enemy entered your defensive line. But no, you have to be on your defensive line and then you get better because of it. Again, there becomes some weirdness as well with people these days where people fail to understand or acknowledge what an objective marker actually is, because obviously most people look at the whole big circle and go, that whole thing's the objective marker. It's like, no, the little bit in the middle that a lot of people these days don't even actually have depicted on their objectives. A lot of the time when I see people with their own custom markers, it's just a whole big circle with, but obviously,
right.
if you're going to use this, make sure that you're able to depict the actual centre of the actual circle.
Well, what's interesting is it specifically says when you draw a line from any part of one of your foundations to the other, so you're not doing it from the centre, you are doing it from the objective. But that's a bit weird because, like, you could say, I'm going to do it from this corner to this corner, and then halfway through, you're going to remember that. Like, it's a bit wibbly wobbly. I think it would just make more sense if it was from the centre to centre. And normally they also say, or historically at one point, they were like, draw an imaginary 1 millimetre line across. Whereas here it just says a line.
Well, and that's the reason why it's important to draw the distinction between what is the objective marker and what is the control zone. Because that's where it gets weird, because all of a sudden if people are drawing, picking points within that massive space, that's a lot more. Anyway, you know what I mean.
That's
I
true.
think that's where the distinction comes into play.
I almost feel like they'd have been better off just saying if it falls across the line that is the thickness of the objective marker. So there's a lot more flexibility, and you don't have to worry about drawing the imaginary line from a certain point to another point. And you just give them some flexibility in that regard. Pick an enhancement, Dan.
Okay, I'll pick an enhancement. Let's go for something hand. Purgation's hand. There we go. Imperial Knight model only. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, if the bearer is on your defensive line, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a win roll of 1. Whatever.
In fact, all bar the last one, they all require you to be on your defensive line. So I'm going for Acquisitor at Arms. Imperial Knight model only, while the bearer is on your defensive line and there are no enemy units on your defensive line, add the bearer's objective control characteristics to that of each model affected by the bearer's bondsman ability.
Okay.
Which are armigers within 12 inches.
Well, one
technically, is it just one armiger within 12 inches? So basically, you need to be between two objectives. Potentially, you're on an objective yourself, and then you need another objective within effectively 12 inches away from where you are to give it to that armiger.
Okay. It all sounds pretty underwhelming. The stratagem I'd like to talk about, Phil, is the Fortress of Intimidation, because who doesn't fear a fortress? Start of your opponent's charge phase, 1 Imperial Knight Titanic unit from your army that is on your defensive line. Until the end of the phase, each time an enemy unit selects your unit as the target of a charge, that enemy unit must take a battleship test, subtracting 1 from that test result. It's not really quite that incredible, is it?
I mean, at least it's -1, and it means they can't use stratagems.
Yeah.
I mean, what would have been more fun is, let's say they take a battle shock test, but instead of failing battle shock, they lose strike first.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
that would maybe be a bit more interesting.
Well, maybe if they added that to the impact of Battle Shock, or maybe if there was maybe if Battle Shock was a more interesting rule than what it is, that would have some implications. What do you want to go with, mate?
I would go with Lance Breaker for 1 CP. Yeah. It's a fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. 1 Imperial Knight unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more attacks and is on your defensive line. Until the end of that phase, each time an attack targets your unit, its strength is greater than your toughness. Subtract 1 from the wound roll. So basically, -1 to be wounded if they're hitting you on 2s and 3s, which is good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. But overall, whatever. Boring.
But lots of stipulations that you got to be on your defensive line, which makes sense. Like, it's very thematic. I guess here's the thing. It's like, that basically means these are just 2 of a possible 5 objectives, or maybe 6 objectives, that you are getting a bonus for your entire army for. But the other objectives that you need to fight over aren't really getting any buffs whatsoever. Especially when most of the enhancements require your defensive line. and a lot of the stratagems require it as well. So, yeah, it's a super defensive thing, but it doesn't feel like you're going to win any games with this.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you could in the right matchup, but yeah, it's a pretty underwhelming detachment. Certainly doesn't evoke any of the really fun thematic ideas that have been expressed in previous books. It's just, yeah, there's a line. I'm on the line.
It's sit there and shoot, I think, is the theme is going for.
Super dull. It's the inverse of what the first one is. The first one is obviously oppressive movement, get out there and kill stuff with assault weapons, and there's an obvious application to that. This, by comparison, is stand still and hope for the best.
Well, this feels like a great thematic mission. You're guarding the Eternity Gate, whatever. You're guarding something, and a bunch of Tyranids are running at you, and you've got to hold off as they come towards you. That feels super fun and thematic, but I don't know if that's like what you want from a sort of a detachment that's, yes, should be thematic, but also more flexible than a sort of one-off narrative game. Doesn't really feel like a play style that you would want to take to a tournament, for example. But maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're not seeing it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the thing. I regularly admit that I'm wrong about a lot of things these days. So, yeah.
So the next one is Questoris Companions. The detachment rule is Heroes of Legend. So at the start of your turn, if your current oath is fulfilled, interesting, determine an additional oath as described on page 74, with an exception that you cannot select a deed or quality that you have already selected. Interesting that they're saying a quality. When the deeds are the only ones that are fulfilled. If you're randomly selecting the deed and or quality and the roll of any result that you've already selected, select a deed or quality that you have not already selected instead. If you cannot determine an additional oath because you have already selected each deed and each quality, do not determine an additional oath. The qualities from your oaths you have fulfilled continue to apply to all models in your army with the code chivalric ability. When the deed for an additional oath is completed, you instead gain 1 CP regardless of how you selected the deed or quality. I'm not going to lie, this makes no sense. And it actually makes me think that when I was telling you that the deed and qualities aren't related to... because it implies that they're linked.
Yeah, it does very much imply they're linked. Which, why I was extra confused. I just sort of took your word, Phil. Have you got that wrong?
Well, code chivalric. So let's go back to the beginning. At the end of the read mission objective step, you must determine an army's oath for the coming battle. An oath consists of 2 parts, 1 deed and 1 quality. So they are linked in some way. There are 3 options for each part shown below. Either select or randomly decide your deed. The selected deed will describe what needs to be achieved in order to complete that deed. Then it says, determine your quality. You can select 1 quality or randomly select 1. Until the end of the battle, the ability described in the quality selected applies to all models in your army with this ability. The first time your selected deed is completed, your oath is fulfilled. You gain, and until the end of the battle, you're honoured, and you gain 2 CP. If you randomly selected your deed or quality, you gain 3. So again, the quality and the deed aren't technically linked, other than it is your oath.
Yeah, except the way
this is saying.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, yeah, except for the fact that they're chosen collectively. So I guess for the purposes of this. Because the oath is a deed and a quality, so essentially when you've accomplished your deed, you don't immediately get your quality. Well, you immediately get the quality by making the deed. Completing the deed does not grant the quality, but when you make a new oath, it comes with a new quality, I suppose. So the implication is that completing the deed isn't... isn't the thing that gives you the quality, but
what it means, so what it basically says, so I'll go back to Heroes of Legends, we read it again under New Light. So at the start of your turn, if your current oath is fulfilled, determine an additional oath. So we now know that oath comes with a deed and a quality, so you gain an extra quality.
Yes, immediately.
Yes, immediately. So it says, but basically, if you're randomly selecting, you can't pick the same thing that you've already done. And I guess in theory, this ability allows you to do it several times. So if you completed an oath, you can gain an extra oath, which gives you the third and final deed, which is ultimately what you're unlocking. And because it says the qualities from oaths you have fulfilled continue to apply to all models with the code chivalric ability, and when a deed is completed for the additional oaths, you gain 1 CP regardless of how you selected it. So basically, first oath gives you 2 to 3 CP, second and third ones give you 1 CP each. So this is quite cool because that actually does allow you to go, okay, cool, I'm going to start off with the quality that's going to give me movement, and then I'm going to unlock another one which is going to give me the hit rolls, and then I'll do one for the leadership and battle shock. So this can, over the course of the game, unlock lots of abilities.
Yeah. So there's a second bit to it as well, which is Valor's Reward, Phil. Do you want to read that?
Yeah, sure. The enhancement shown on the right can become expended. You cannot use such enhancements while they are expended. Each time you fulfill your oath, each expended enhancement is no longer expended. So basically, you reset them each time you complete your oath, which is kind of cool. I will select Wormslayer Divination. It's an Imperial Knight model only. In your shooting phase, when the bearer is selected to shoot, it can use this enhancement. If it does, this enhancement is expended. Then, until the end of that phase, each time you make an attack that targets a unit that can fly, you can re-roll the hit roll. So it's technically once per game until I can do an oath, and then I can do it again. So it allows me to do it up to 3 times, assuming I can get off all the oaths.
We have Pennant of Silvered Fury. When the bearer is selected to fight, it can use this enhancement. If it does, this enhancement is expended. Again, okay, fair enough. Then until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by the bearer have sustained hits too. Very strong. Very strong. And obviously can be done up to 3 times a game, but expended, blah, 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 blah.
Interesting.
Stratagems?
I am going to go for Moment of Glory for 1 CP. It's the fight phase just before an Imperial Knight Titanic unit from your army consolidates. Until the end of that phase, each time your unit consolidates, move it. Models in it can move an additional 3 inches, provided your unit can end that move within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. So basically you get to do a 6-inch consolidation, but I don't know why they just don't say that, because all models move 3 inches, and quite often in rules like this they normally say that rather than an additional 3. It's odd that they say models in a unit when every knight unit is just a single model. Terribly worded, but basically you get a 6-inch consolidation, assuming you can end within engagement range of an enemy.
Indeed. I'm just going to go with Driven by the Past, because it's advance and charge. Who doesn't love advance and charge?
Ooh.
So yeah, advance and charge is always super helpful. So yeah, if at the start you were like, I'm going to kill that character, and I'm going to give myself +2 to my move and +1 to my advance and charge rolls, so I'm going to go run, and then I'm going to charge in, hopefully kill that character via maybe some form of precision, hero's duel or whatever it is, and take them out, and then in so doing, move on to the next stage of my thingy. I mean, again, this isn't too bad. I think it's got some interesting vibe, but it's certainly better than the stand in a line detachment. The last of the detachments is Spearheaded Arms. This is the Armiger detachment. Each time models from your army use its bondsman ability, if no other model from your army has used that bondsman ability that turn, you can select up to 3 friendly Armiger models instead of 1 within 12 of that model or within 15 of that model while your army is honoured. There it is, Phil, an instance where it counts. Until the start of your next command phase, those models are affected by that bondsman abilities, and then keywords, Armigers gain the battle line keyword, because they don't normally have that. So now in this particular detachment, you can take 12 Armigers as opposed to just 6, because there's the Armiger Warglaive and the Armiger Helvrin. Typically, you can only take 3 of each, but if they're in this, you can take up to 12 or 6 of each, because battle line.
I guess so, but weirdly, the detachment rule is predominantly using the bondsman ability, so it's still really designed to have big knights
you want, like,
in your army.
You're still going to want like 1, maybe 2 big knights to take full advantage of it, and then with the way the points are going to work out, you're probably not going to get a super spammy one, but you could do just 1 big knight and then 12 Armigers if that is your poison. So, yeah. Tell us about some of the enhancements, Phil.
I'll pick Fables of Nightmare, because that sounds pretty cool. An Imperial Knight model only, while 2 or more Armiger models are under the effect of the bearer's bondsman ability. Melee weapons equipped by those Armiger models have the precision ability.
Ooh.
So can multiple... Oh, yeah, so because of their knightly teachings, they can have up to 3 Armigers basically be selected to bondsmen.
So you can have a bunch of Helvrin snipers.
Ooh,
could be
tasty.
Tales of Heroism. While 2 or more Armiger models are under the effect of the bearer's bondsman ability, each time one of those Armiger models makes a melee attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to hit rolls and wound rolls, which can be very useful because a lot of stuff these days is -1 to wound. So being able to turn that off is certainly a positive. Stratagems, mate?
I'm going for Squires of the Hunt. It's your opponent's fight phase. It's 1 CP. You select 1 Armiger model from your army, or 1 Imperial Knights Titanic model from your army, and 1 or more friendly Armiger models affected by the bondsman ability. Super interesting. For each of your Armiger models that are within 9 inches of 1 or more battlefield edges and not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, remove that Armiger model from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserve. So interesting that obviously it doesn't affect the Imperial Knight that you've selected, but it affects the Armigers that are the bondsman did to it. So that's quite interesting that you can stick them in strategic reserve and jump around the board, which is kind of cool.
Indeed. I will go with the Mantle of the Mentor. Start of your shooting phase, 1 Armiger model or 1 Imperial Knight Titanic model from your army, and 1 friendly Armiger model affected by the model's bondsman ability could be the target. Until the end of the phase, your Armiger models are eligible to shoot in a turn in which they fell back. There you go.
Not bad. What do you think to those detachments as an overview?
There is one obvious choice. There is a second. There is a second interesting but not that interesting choice, and then 2 that you probably won't take. Although I would like to hope that people find some kind of creative flair within the way that the Spearheaded Arms works. But that's not Imperial Knights to me. I never really understood the whole love affair with the Armiger spam. I want big stompy knights, but I want some Armigers.
Yeah, same.
But I think, it's undeniable that the ability to turn all your guns into assault weapons is obviously strong, so you're just going to lean into that. The army skews heavily towards shooting. They've got so many mechanics and benefits that allow them to, function well when it comes to shooting. Much more so than a lot of armies, because obviously they've got the Titanic element. So with that boost in movement, they can really do a lot of work. So, yeah. But as I say, really creatively bankrupt overall, I would say. Like, all the things you could have come up with and stuff that has existed in the past for Imperial Knights, this is just really thin.
Well, yeah, this is what I was going to say. So historically, as we already mentioned, you can normally have Imperial or Mechanicum, Mechanicus, or Free Blades. And I would have loved that to have been like some of the detachments. And I was thinking about it, another thing on one of my walks, thinking about it as an idea, because detachments are interesting, but they really lack the flavour of being Ultramarines, being Imperial Fists, being Imperial Knights versus Mechanicus Knights. And I feel like that needs to be like an extra layer added onto this, so you can be like, cool, I'm taking the Spearhead at Arms and I'm taking them as Imperial Knights, and that Imperial Knights will layer on an extra rule. Not too complicated, but gives you lots more variety, because it then suddenly means, cool, I can take Spearhead at Arms detachment, but there's 3 different flavours that I could technically have with it, depending on if I want to be Free Blades, if I want to be Mechanicus, if I want to be Imperial Knights, or maybe Free Blades should have actually been a detachment all on its own right, because it's written as a rule that you can ally your Free Blades into other armies, but that isn't actually how Free Blades really work, because normally you'll get an extra knight that could be a Free Blade, but it could also be a Mechanicus or Imperial Knight, and an army of Free Blades is a thing that is not at all represented in this book whatsoever. It would have been great if you got to individually give each of your knights, I don't know, something, a selection of rules that you could have picked from to make it a bit more thematic. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it's sort of missing those interesting elements, I would say.
I think Imperial Knights consistently over time, and definitely now, I think we were getting to a place where they were super interesting. I think we've ended up in a place where they're super boring, and I think you can represent them in fun ways with the way that you model and paint them. Like, obviously, people who collect and have Imperial Knight armies, like myself, will inject character into their collections and will name their knights and do these kind of things. But I don't think there's anything interesting in the way that they're designed that meaningfully motivates that type of storytelling on the tabletop, at least. Like, you can inject it and you can be that lunatic that you're playing against at an event and goes, "Oh, let me tell you about the chivalric deeds of my knights. This is Sir Jeremy and all the things that Sir Jeremy has done. Let me regale you with these tales." And it's like, already your opponent is glazed over as he just wants to know what enhancements it has, because he wants to get on with the gameplay. You know, that kind of thing.
No. But Sir Jeremy has a small gauntlet.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah, indeed. But yeah, absolutely. But anyway, let's not.
Fair. And his thing, for detachments, feels a bit light, especially when there are no combat patrol rules in this book. So they are missing some pages that they could have filled out with some extra detachments. Which is a bit of a shame. Should we move on to the detachments? Not detachments, data sheets.
I mean, we can do if you think it's necessary. I think we covered most of the interesting stuff already. I mean, Imperial Knights are Imperial Knights.
Well,
right?
let's check out the Defender, right?
Yeah,
let's check out what he does, and let's check out what Jobber does, the named character guy, because you said he had some interesting rules. Sure. Sir Hector. Do you want to go through the Knight Defender rules?
Yeah, of course. So he's got a normal Imperial Knight stat line. All Imperial Knights have basically the same stat line if they are of a Crusader class, was it? Is that what it is? No, what's the chassis for the...
Questoris is the standard ones.
Although I'm just checking. Sorry, I'm dying at the same time.
And then Dominus is the bigger ones.
Yeah, so the only point of difference is that the Gallant has greater movement than all the other variants, but I suppose the implication...
Which is the combat
one,
correct.
Right? And I suppose the implication of that is because, it's only got melee weapons, so it's not firing things other than, the tiny melter guns or maybe missile launchers on its head.
Yeah.
So they're able to put a bit more of its effort into mobility. It's a bit more lighter. It's a bit whatever. But yeah, the standard profile is movement 10, toughness 11, a save of 3+, and an invulnerable save of 5+. Now, this has an invulnerable save of 4+. But it is caveated that these invulnerable saves are only available against ranged attacks. Again, the way they've kind of done it in a text format is not particularly elegant, but whatever, it gets the point across. 26 wounds, a leadership of 6+.
Sorry, can I just interrupt and say asterisks go after the word, not before.
Indeed.
So they've gone asterisks invulnerable save, then asterisks against ranged attacks only. It should be invulnerable save asterisks, but then the asterisk that you're referencing goes in front. So the against ranged attacks bit is correct, but the invulnerable save bit is woefully incorrect.
It's, yeah.
The copy editor should be fired.
And then OC8, which is, again, pretty standard across the board, right? So, pretty normal, but 4 of invuln, meaningful. Its abilities...
it's good.
Yes, it is good. Its abilities are Deadly Demise D6, a Code of Chivalry, and it's a super heavy walker. Has the Titanic keyword, etc., towering, etc. It's got Defender's Duty, which is a bondsman ability. While a model is affected by this ability, each time attack is allocated, the model will subtract 1 for the damage characteristic of that attack. Massively powerful, useful, really good ability. Used to be... No, the Warden used to give -1 to APs. So yeah, -1 damage is a big buff. Huge, in fact. And Selfless Protector, each time a ranged attack is allocated to an Imperial Knight model from your army, if that model is not fully visible to every model in the attacking unit because of this Knight Defender's model, that model has the benefit of cover and a 4+ invulnerable save. Now, there are already people out there who are basically taking this model and posing it in the widest stance possible.
Right.
Because they're like...
having its arms out to the side.
Yeah, basically, like a playground in the 90s when people are trying to rally people together for a game of Stuck in the Mud, sort of... arms out wide, trying to accrue players.
I mean, why this wasn't just an aura ability, I don't know. Maybe they thought that would be too powerful because your whole game you would just have all your knights right next to this. But then that would force you got to play the game right. You got to get on objectives. So you could only do that with so many knights. So, as you say, this is just open to...
It's also really annoying because it enters into this realm of abstraction where you start to now have to debate with your opponent what fully visible means, because it's like, oh, you can't quite see everything on it because the tiny little bit of it is obscured by my arm. It's like...
Yeah. I think the easiest way to have done it would be like draw a line between the target. If it goes through this model's base, it gets it. Like, just do something like that where it's, more straightforward.
Or we could have done the thing we came up with a couple of months ago, which was have no power and distribute it, like boost people's invuns. Pick a unit, it gets a 4 up invun and cover. But then you don't, because it gets it from you. So your defender doesn't get it, but the thing that you're trying to defend does. It's like, it's a terrible... Look, I just sometimes, man, I just feel like this flipping edition of the game is just so stupid. And it's like, just come on, guys. Like, how is this good? And again, the thing that... I don't blame the community and the players, because at the end of the day, exploit the loopholes. And a lot of us just do it for laughs, right? Like, a lot of people just see these things and go, gee, I'm going to do the thing because it's going to be funny. You get people like Mikey, Hellstorm Wargaming, doing his clickbaity videos saying, wouldn't it be funny? And to be fair, it is funny. And it's obvious it's going to get patched at some point or clarified. But just, good Lord, just come on.
Yeah, I mean, if you just excluded the arms, because they're the only things you can really abuse in terms of positioning, if you just excluded those, it would be fine, because it would have to be predominantly behind the majority of the model.
And that's it, mate. Whatever. It's just a really bad rule. But whatever.
And tell me about its special weapons.
Well, it's got a conversion beam, which has sustained hits D3 and conversion. Each time an attack made with this weapon, if that target is more than 18 inches away from the bearer, a modified successful hit roll of 4+ is a critical hit.
And obviously you get your sustained hits D3 each time you hit on a 4-up. So that's
so
cool.
Basically you get 3 attacks. If you're 18 inches away, 4+ is a crit, adding additional D3. Sorry, excuse me. So ballistic skill 3+, but obviously you're hoping for 4s. Strength 12, which is really respectable. -2 AP, which is really good. 4 damage. No, -2 AP is actually not that good, but 4 damage is really good. So...
Well, I mean, it is sort of Terminator-style killers. -2 is the perfect number because it'll be on their own.
Yeah, exactly, right? So for everyone out there looking at those new sexy assault Terminators, this thing's a bad time for them. So yeah, I mean, really powerful gun. But wait, there's more. It's also got the Plasma Executor. We'll talk about its supercharged profile because no one cares about what it is otherwise. It's 36-inch range, D6 +3 attacks, ballistic skill 3, strength 9, -3 damage. Very good. Very good. Hazardous, but, who cares? And then lastly, you've got a Phosphor Blaster, which ignores covers, rapid fire 1. So that's range 24, 1 attack. Hits on a 3, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. And then lastly, a twin Incendi Combuster. Ignores torrent, ignores cover, torrent, and twin linked. Range 12, D6, strength 6, -1 damage. Okay, cool. And then...
Oh, so that's mounted just below the conversion.
Yes,
beam.
correct, yeah.
On the
so it's got a lot of guns. It's got a lot of defensive opportunities. It's got huge amounts of utility. It's just an auto-include. Like, if you were going to do the armor just spam army, you would just do this, because you could basically go, cool, 3 armigers now all have -1 damage. I'm going to be walking around like a crab, giving them all 4-up invuns and, and cover saves. It's, It's just, the thing is, it's just... I just hate it. I think it's a terrible addition to the book. It's strong. It looks cool, but I don't know why it exists. It makes no sense in the fluff. It makes no sense in the game. It's a real miss for me. I'll buy one because they are undeniably amazing. And if you want to win with Imperial Knights, you kind of have to have one. But yeah, I'm really disappointed with that thing. I think it's just, I don't really understand what the heck they were thinking. There's just no downsides to it. It's just good all round.
Well, I mean, 36-inch range is relatively short in the grand scheme of things, but it's enough to shoot at most things.
It can shoot everything, though. It's going to have movement 12 with a D6 +1 advance with assault.
Fair. Well, my point was, even though it's a smaller board, terrain's everywhere, so what you'll be able to physically see, you could probably shoot at because of the sort of firing arcs and stuff like that.
As well as towering.
I did see lots of talk. Well, that's true. I did see lots of talk online about the on the kit itself. You get like an optional stubber design, which I guess is the phosphor blaster, but they were implying that there's actually maybe 2 on there, and the idea is that you could take it as a Cognis heavy stubber rather than the standard one. But I guess so I assume that's in addition to the phosphor blaster, because that's got its own thing, unless people didn't realise that and they were just looking at the the instruction manual, and it didn't clarify that isn't just a generic stubber.
Yeah, it's
interesting. It's very shooty.
It's very shooty, too shooty. It's very defensive, too defensive. It has no downside. Like, it's too good. And it's boring because it's too good.
I guess it's not very good at killing hordes. Like, it's more of an elite killer. Like, if you want, like I said, if you want to deal with Terminators or even vehicles, this is going to be pretty good. I will
acknowledge that, yes, it will definitely. It's not going to chew through an army of orc boys, right? So
no, but then you've got other things that can do that. I think.
Totally. And it's just, I don't get it. I think. Yeah, it's got too much punch and too much defense, and
It does seem to have, with the boosted invuln save, so you don't ever need to rotate your iron shields with this guy, and it can potentially give that to other knights as well. That could be very strong, and I would have rather seen this on a bigger chassis, because then it would have felt a bit more like the lumbering behemoth that it's meant to be, or if it was sacrificing some shooting for its sort of shield generator capability, and that's mostly what you were taking the knight for.
Yeah, I think there's the thing. I think if the ability to get 4-up invuln was distributed, i.e. you could keep it for yourself or give it to someone else, I think that would have been fine. I also think that if there were negatives to moving, to suggest that there was some kind of conserving of power to facilitate certain things, like maybe it could have been an interesting design decision that, like, these guns, when stationary, are this profile, but if you move, they're this profile, because it depicts the fact that there is a kind of decision-making process.
Well, is the shield on or off or boosted? So it could be it has an invuln save of this, but if you can crank it up, but then the weapon profile is shooting at the lower profile and can't shoot at the top profile. A bit so, because obviously the plasma has a supercharged version. Maybe it's like, cool, when the shield's on, you can't fire the supercharged one. And likewise, there could have been a similar one for the conversion beamer to operate at max power. Yeah, that's so that would have been an interesting, give and take with this thing.
Yeah. I think ultimately, I just think it's a bit, but look, loads of people are buying them because they're really strong in game. I haven't bought one yet. I'm probably going to, but at the moment, I'm waiting to see what the inevitable nerf will look like for it, because it's definitely coming. I
was just wanting to look at the difference between that plasma, so the plasma executor on the Knight Defender versus the plasma decimator on the Knight Castellan, which is, and it's only one, so range is slightly different, and then it's got better AP, so it's D6 plus 3 shots, same, hits on 3, same, strength 9, same, AP -4 instead of -3, so that's the difference. And they both do 3 damage, but it's got 48-inch range instead of 36. So the fact that you've got a near identical plasma gun on the smaller chassis is sort of makes the bigger one like less of an incentive to take it, because like the extra AP between 3 and 4 is negligible. On most,
I will say this: so
that's
it feels like GW definitely feel like they've sold enough Castellans over the years, because they never seem to, or at least over the span of this edition, give the Castellan anything to shout about. The fact that the Volcano Lance, which is called a Volcano Lance, a Titan killing weapon, is a blast weapon. I mean, sure, why not? A blast weapon with no other rules, right? 72-inch range, D3 shots, but blast. So, obviously when you're trying to kill those hordes, it's going to be super useful.
Is it so it can't shoot it in combat? It can't shoot is that the only reason?
Again, it's a concentrated lance. It's a beam of energy. Whatever. So again, it's just a negative being blast. D3 shots, so anything between 1 and 3, unless you're shooting a horde. Why? Strength 18, cool, great, groovy. -5 AP, amazing. Damage, amazing. But why isn't it devastating? Why isn't it twin linked? Why isn't it anything?
Well, it's not two guns, that's why. It's not twin linked. Twin linked, to be fair, is very on point for it's a gun that's got two of them strapped together. They don't just dish twin linked out to give it. Now, there could be another rule which does the same thing. And I think historically the Volcano Lance on the Shadow Sword tank had something similar where it was like, cool, against super heavy targets, re-roll your wound roll.
Why hasn't it got the melter rule? I don't know. There's many rules you could give it. You could give it lethal hits, whatever. It's just the thing is it's like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, D6 plus 8 damage is legit.
Well, you can re-roll the damage roll against monsters or vehicles because of that. So it's core rule.
But you still have to.
It's not on the gun, but
you still have to hit, wound, and have your opponent fail the save. And then your opponent probably has some feel no pains as well these days as well. So it's that thing where it's like...
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. Think about the Knight Defender. I was expecting it to be more like a Void Shield in terms of how they work. It powers up and you've got to knock it down. I was sort of expecting it to be more like that, but because it is literally a Void Shield generator, but just acts as an invulnerable slave is...
It's not for me. Canis Rex is unique because obviously it's the only the only unit in the entire book that actually has a pilot, which again is another mistake that I think they've made with Imperial Knights over the years. I think every Imperial Knight should have a pilot, and I think that pilot should have unique characteristics that actually alters the functionality of that knight, but that's something I've said many times. Tell us what Canis Rex does, Phil, if you so please.
Yeah, sure thing. Can I just quickly deviate to one thing? Because I wanted to compare the Plasma Decimator with the Thunder Coil Harpoon, which is the harpoon on the Valiant. Yeah. So that has Blast. It has Devastating Wounds. So, interestingly already. It's only 12-inch range, which it always is. D3 attacks, so similar to the Volcano Cannon. Hits on freeze. It has a strength of 24. So it's going to be wounding other knights on 2, so that's insane. It's AP minus 6, and it does flat 10 damage. So it's technically less damage than the Volcano Lance, but it's basically nothing gets a save other than invuns, and you're wounding it on 2. So, I think that's great. And then with the Thunder Shock. So in your shooting phase, each time you select a target for this model's Thunder Core Harpoon, roll 1d6 for the target unit and 1d6 for each other enemy unit within 6 inches of the target. On a 4+, the unit being rolled for is struck by arcing energies. Okay, this is new. After resolving all of the model's attacks against the target unit, each unit struck by arcing energy suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's cool, because it never used to do that. It used to just be a Thunder Core. It used to be just literally a harpoon. So now it's an electrified harpoon. I felt like you used to be able to drag it towards you or something, but maybe I can't remember if that was actually a thing or not.
Reroll charges or something like that. If you'd you added to your charge rolls or something. Not that would ever be super useful for a Valiant, but yeah. No, the Valiant's legit. I think the Valiant's a very powerful profile and feels somewhat thematically interesting in the way that it's designed, whereas the Knight Defender is just excess, but Canis Rex was the old Imperial Knights unit of excess, though, to be fair. So let's see what you reckon of that.
So Canis Rex, so same stat profile as we were saying before, movement 10, T11, etc.
5 movement rather than 4, blah blah blah.
Yeah. He's got Deadly Demise D6, Code Chivalric, Super Heavy Walker. He's got the legendary Freeblade rule. Once per turn, you can target this model with a stratagem for 0 CP, and you can do so even if you've targeted a different unit with that stratagem in the same phase. I assume even though this is written way after they've sort of FAQ'd it in the balanced data state, that's actually -1 and not a flat 0. Because that's how most of those captain abilities work. It's odd that they've never updated the books, because it's just something they could switch on or off, I guess, in the balanced phase.
So in this particular instance, it is as written for the moment.
Oh, okay. Then it's got Chainbreaker. So once per battle, at the start of any phase, you can select one friendly Imperium unit. That's a keyword. So if it's a free blade, it can be anyone else in a different army, like Custodes, Guard, etc., etc. So you select that unit that is battle shocked, and within 12 inches of this unit, that unit is no longer battle shocked. Okay, that's quite cool. So switch off being battle shocked. That's for a battle at the start of any phase. So I guess that is when you do the battle shock test. So you could fail a battle shock test, then you can elect to switch it off, which is quite rare, because normally you've got to use a strat up front before you do the roll.
Typically, so if you were an Imperial Knight and you move through a building, you roll the 1 and you battle shocked. That was happened in your movement phase. At the start of the shooting phase, Canis goes, "You're fine, mate."
Yeah, that's very good for other knights, especially.
Although it's only once per battle that he does that.
Yes, yeah, that's true. The Lazim Pulsar, you get 2 energy options. You get high intensity and low intensity. They both have blast sustained hits 1. If it's high intensity, it's range 24 inches, D6 attacks, ballistic skill 2+, strength 14, -3 AP and 4 damage, which is pretty tasty. Good, yeah. And if it's low intensity, it's 36-inch range, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 9, -1, 2 damage. That's still pretty good. I mean, the AP's not great, but it's a good sort of marine clearer, I guess. Comes with a little multi-laser as well. And then when he dies, you get Sir Hector. So it says if you're using Canis Rex model and it's destroyed, the model is treated as a model disembarking from a destroyed transport, and you must perform an emergency disembarkation. Sir Hector cannot be selected as the target of any of your stratagems other than the core stratagems. Your Canis Rex unit is not considered to be destroyed until Sir Hector is also destroyed.
Yep.
That's a bit odd.
Yeah, so
the model is technically dead, but not actually dead. So you don't remove it from play until Sir Hector dies. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So basically,
and it's just doing nothing though. It's just a wreck.
Yeah. Well, so Canis Rex, the model is removed, but basically it's not considered dead until Sir Hector is removed as a casualty.
Right. Oh, okay. So he's for the point for something that had kill points. Yeah. That's quite important.
Yeah, or assassination or whatever.
He's because I mean he's a guy. He's got interestingly he's got a named pistol just called Hector's pistol that does 2 damage, strength 5, -1. Yeah. It's only 1 attack, but at least it's not like a generic bolt pistol, which is what I always complain about. So that's good. 4 up save, 3 wounds, OC1. I mean, he's just a little dude running around. I sort of wish he had a special rule which actually allowed him to do something. But
he's just a little token, a little lad that turns up to represent that something happened.
True, and he has a lone op as well. And I think, thematically having him on the tabletop is quite cool.
I've always felt like it would have been cool if, he could have disembarked from it and then operated sort of separate. There's all these things that you could come up with to make that interesting, but they've done it the way they've done it, so whatever.
What I'd almost like is if you ran him to your board edge, you gain a couple of victory points because he's run off the table.
Yeah. You didn't mention Freedom's Hand, which is a ridiculous melee profile, by the way.
Oh, on Canis Rex. Sorry, I forgot about that. So it's strike or sweep. Both have sustained hits 1. So the strike version is 5 attacks. Hitting on 2s, strength 20. Oh my god, that is good. AP -3, damage 9. And then the sweep one is 10 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 10, -2 AP, 3 damage. Let's just have a look at a regular fist to compare.
Well, if you're looking at the one on the Gallant, it's slightly better because it also, I think the Gallant has weapon skill 2+.
Oh,
But if you're looking at it on, say, like a...
hits on 2s has devastating wounds or lethal hits
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, which this one doesn't. He's got just sustained hits.
arguably better.
But it's basically one extra... Oh, so the Gallant actually is quite good because it has 6 attacks or 12
because the Gallant
attacks.
actually only has one weapon profile because it's both combined, isn't it?
No, it's got a sweep and strike.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a sword and fist combined.
No, you got your chainsword or your thunderstrike.
Oh, even in between them, it doesn't just... Okay, maybe I've got myself confused there.
No, it does, yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's quite similar. It's basically +1 damage is the main takeaway, but -1 attack in comparison to the Gallant Fist. So for a named fist, not as good as I was expecting, because, I mean, it is technically slightly
Well, it
better,
used to be...
It
used to be that he was insane because he had an ability that all of his... basically, he used to score crit hits on 5 pluses. So he used to get... And everything was sustained. So, like, I was using him before... And, you'd shoot that gun and you'd roll like a 6 on your D6 shots. And then you'd roll to hit and get like 4 or 5 pluses sometimes to be like, well, hey, I've hit you like, 8 times or whatever it is. It just gets... Yeah, he used to be like an absolute no-brainer auto-include. He still is, I think, an auto-include just because he's cool. But, like, yeah, I agree. I think...
It's interesting because I guess he's technically a free blade, right?
He is, yeah.
And I sort of wish there was... I wish there was a rules that would... And maybe this is a bit too punishing, that would basically say, if you're taking him, you can't take him if you're taking Mechanicum or Imperials. But then maybe you should always have one, right? But I basically love it if there was more free blade characters.
There used to be.
Or just named characters.
Well, there used to be...
There
were 2, I think, at one point.
There was a white dwarf one whose name I can't remember, but he was like the guardian of a tomb of some kind, and he would just appear out of nowhere, and he had a sort of effectively like a deep strike, I think, ability, because he could just appear from the mists.
And there was that. Was that the green one
think
from the mobile game?
That was the green one, yes. That was also in the mobile game. Yeah, I think that was it.
But anyway, look, I mean, in conclusion, because we've definitely gotten to that point where we should conclude, the Imperial Knight Codex, it's fine. It's good, in fact. You'll probably win a bunch of games with it. Yay. But yeah, it's just creatively bankrupt. It's a really uninspiring collection of rules that takes a really fun, joyful, enjoyable kind of collection of big stompy robots and reduced it and robs it of all its character and all of its pizzazz, I suppose. Like, and to be clear, I've never really massively enjoyed the index version of them either, but I've always been optimistic that we were going to get something really fun and interesting when the book came around. I kind of gave the index a bit of a pass. I didn't obviously know at the time it was going to be the only thing we were going to have for 2+ years. And now we've obviously got the Codex, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's just more of the same. Whoopie-doo. Fine. Again, for the people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those sorts of people like, and good for them. But ultimately, for me, I just feel like if you're going to have a super elite army of stompy robots, you should come up with some fun, interesting, characterful rules that give it a sense of flavour. Because Knights without flavour are just oppressive, big, stompy killing machines that just disappoint and annoy your opponents. It's a great book for turning Imperial Knight players into the kind of armies, the kind of forces that you see across the tabletop and roll your eyes at. It's just a book that makes Imperial Knights not fun to play or play against. So, yeah, well done.
Yeah, I mean, they do balance them in terms of points and stuff, but as you said at the very beginning, in a casual match, it's a skew list, much like if I rocked up with an all-tank army, half your guys aren't really able to do anything against them, and it can be a bit oppressive. So maybe having some mechanics that made them slightly harder to play or tone them down a little bit would be helpful. as a sort of balancing mechanic rather than just relying on points. I feel like, and I don't know if this is true or if it's a different unit, but is it a stratagem, I assume, that would allow you to chuck a vehicle or a monster at another unit? Or am I just thinking of Gargants from AOS? Maybe, but I feel like Knights used to be able to do that. If you had the fist, you could crush them with a stratagem, and then you could chuck them at them. And I know, the Gargants can do that, and that must be my last encounter with that rule. But I hope that would exist within one of the data sheets, or it should just be on the fist profile as a thing. But it's probably not going to be a thing. So.
That was the mechanic that they added, or not added, but it was definitely in the 9th edition book. It may have even been in the 8th edition book. In fact, I think it was. But yeah, it used to be if you had the fist, you could chuck stuff. I think in 8th edition, it was just a rule on the actual war gear item, the actual weapon.
Yeah,
and then in 9th, they made it a stratagem. But yeah, it was a cool rule, but it's gone because, you can't have that.
Yeah, shame. There's definitely some options there, but as we have sort of to death, spitballed much better ideas off the top of our heads that I think would make this codex much more interesting to play. Which is mad.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder what they've been doing the last couple of years with a lot of the rules of the line and stuff.
They probably had a month to write this entire codex.
Oh yeah, of course.
And they've just churned it out, I say politely. And obviously the people there work very hard and passionately.
Of course they do.
But it doesn't feel, as you say, particularly interesting. But it feels like the product of a game system designed for tournament play, which is me putting my cynical hat on, going, you've got something relatively streamlined, relatively straightforward to play. We don't want to put too much narrative and flavour in it. It puzzles me, really, that they even bothered to put in the fact that you can roll for your deeds and your qualities. And then the bonus for rolling is so minor, would you do it?
I mean, you would if you were doing the one where you get multiple O's, but other than that, you wouldn't worry.
Yes, no, that's true, because you can. Well, actually, no, because only the first time do you get the +1 CP. There's no bonus for rolling for the others, but you can roll because you're probably going to get them all at some point. It's just the order that you get them in.
Yeah. I don't mean to be super negative, and I'm not being super negative, I don't think, but I'm just being observant in the fact that I just feel like I just think this is the thing. It's to me, there is an opportunity. There's things I can't get my head around at the moment. One, Chaos Space Marines. I don't understand why they exist and what the point of them is, because they do nothing to make them interesting or stand out or be unique. They just kind of.
They get to do packs, don't they?
Oh, they do
get
the dark
packs
with
the Dark Gods.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just sort of, obviously they've diluted that down over multiple codexes now and done what they've done there, and whatever, it's fine. But I think that's the thing. I think Games Workshop, Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights are an interesting example of an opportunity to kind of actually, because ultimately you're just squeezing as much blood as you can out of that one stone, right? You've got that one Imperial Knight kit, and then admittedly you've then since done a Chaos Knight kit and blah, 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 blah. But, it's what are you really doing to make these two things uniquely different from each other? What is it about Imperial Knights that makes them an orderly force of robot knights piloted by skilled warriors? And what is it about Chaos Knights that makes them what they are? And the fact that at the moment I just don't think they've adequately answered that, I think is one of the main issues for me. I would love them to come up with a series of fun, interesting rules for Imperial Knights and a set of fun, interesting rules for Chaos Knights, so that when you see both of them on the tabletop, they feel distinctly their own thing. But at the moment, they're just sort of two different they're just, two sides of the same coin, which is boring.
It's been too long that I can't at all remember what the Chaos Knight kind of rules were, and maybe that shows you how maybe uninteresting they are. But I've got terrible memory, so I'm not going to blame it. But I will say this thing: nothing in that book from a detachment point of view or army rule is making me go, oh, I want to collect this army. The thing that makes me want to go out and buy an Imperial Knight model, noting that I have several in a box unbuilt and one half built, the thing that made me go, oh baby, was looking at the profile of that fist and it going, it's strength 20, everyone. God damn, that is good. Like, that is the thing that sells me as a Knight player. The stats on the data sheet are just like representing what they should be, and that just looks good. But as you say, from a theming point of view with the detachments, that feels somewhat lost in comparison. It's not exciting me in that same way.
Yeah, and that's what you want. You want an opportunity to inject some creativity, some flavour, some character. Because at the end of the day, most people's armies will consist of 3 big knights of varying degrees of style and a bunch of armatures. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll have 4 big knights. Yeah. Maybe you'll have 5 big knights. Whatever. It's not a lot of miniatures. Yeah, okay, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of miniatures. So, give me a reason to get excited about creating characters and creating narrative, and give me gameplay design decisions that create interesting moments. But again, whatever. I find myself in this thing a lot with 10th edition 40k, where I'm just like, why is everything so boring? Why can't it just be fun? And again, I don't mean to sort of seem like I'm hating on 10th edition 40k, as fundamentally I have fun playing it. It's a minimal viable product, but it's increasingly, I don't know. The 9th edition Imperial Knight book was beautiful. I know it had its problems, but I loved it. It was filled with creativity. I could do all sorts of fun stuff with it. It felt fluffy and interesting.
Well, like with the Free Blade stuff, you had positives and negatives that you could have, basically, and things like that. And as you say, with such a limited model count for, say, the big guys, you could be like, cool, each one gets a pilot, each one gets a personality type, which gives you either a positive and a negative for that model. And that could be, rolled for, could be chosen, but would give them more flavour and, to an extent, more rules complexity. But as you say, if you're just doing that for the big knights only, that's going to be like 3 to 5 models.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can get away with that extra layer of rules.
But you can also have the influence of the squires, the armatures. Like, if you've got an armature with a calm demeanour and a level of professionalism and a degree of, stewardship, the idea that my armature actually helps me level out. So it's like that thing where it's like, I'm a hot-headed, bold, extravagant knight that's just always charging in head first. And I'm like, ah! But my armature, my squire, is like, sir, have you considered what you're about to go do? And then it might actually bring you down, and it creates another opportunity for that relationship between the armatures and the knights, like actually creating a bit of a duality, where it's like, and again, you can have some character where it's like, oh, this particular knight is incredibly arrogant, and although it's partnered with a very stoic and sensible armature, on a 5+, it just ignores what it's saying anyway. It's like, oh, I'd strongly recommend against this. No, Squire, no, I'm off. I'm gonna go charge. I don't know. I mean, again, there's a lot of layers of things that you would have to implement to make that kind of sort of thing come to life on the tabletop. But anyway, there you go. Imperial Knight book, massively disappointing, but ultimately really strong, and you'll win games. So, well done on that front. A great series of rules that will win you games, but do so in the most unimaginative way possible. Yay! 40k, everybody.
Fair.
Any more, Phil?
No, I think we've done it to death.
Yep.
As is the theme of this episode.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Back to that again. It's getting on late and I'm dying of sickness, but we did say we were going to do AOS stuff. So Transitional noise. All right, well, we're going to talk about the new balance update for AOS. Nothing super extensive, but it's interesting, to say the very least. The only general rule they've changed is the battle tactic of scouting party, which is super interesting to see. Are you familiar with that, Phil? Have you kept up to date?
I didn't see that bit, no, but scouting party is the one where you've got everything that's basically infantry or cavalry non-hero can score mostly in your opponent's deployment zone.
Or no man's land.
Or no man's land, but mostly when it's not in combat as well. That's the key thing.
Well, exclusively when it's not in combat, yeah. You can't... you are not eligible as a scoring unit if you are in combat at the end of the turn, or combat range, or what have you. But the way they've changed it is they've basically made it that it's every unit that's used deployability. So basically everything that you put down on the tabletop gets it. Because basically it was before that it used to be units that are within your territory, but there are some units that in the deployment step
that start off.
Yeah. So if I'm using Skaven and I use Night Runners, I have a deployment step move. So
like a pre-game move out of your deployment zone.
Yeah, so I could move outside of my deployment zone, which could also be outside of my territory. And with the way that scouting was done before, those Night Runners would not have been eligible to become a scout unit, right? So that's like a really, really particular fix.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's the sort of, a dumb edge case. So, yeah, good fix there.
Yeah, but it also, the other fix as well is you cannot use terrain features. So faction terrain cannot be used for scoring purposes in scouting now either.
I thought they couldn't be... anyway, because I remember was looking at that because the Hungry Nexuses from Nighthawk can teleport around, so I didn't think it was.
There was a time when you could, you cannot anymore.
Fair. Well,
I think they may have updated that in one of the previous ones, but just to kind of round it out on scouting, that's another change that has occurred from the rules as written on the card that you will have. So that's an interesting change, but no other battle tactics changed, no other kind of core rules changed. Everything else was basically faction specific. Basically, they have a number of armies in the game that are doing really, really well. Those namely being Cities of Sigmar, Khazran Overlords, and Crawl Boys. So essentially, this balanced data slate seeks to address mostly Khazran Overlords and Cities, to be fair. Because they're definitely amongst the worst offenders. But Cruel Boys and Daughters of Cain are definitely up there as well.
Yeah. What was odd is they also called out Nighthaunt. And then they really didn't actually make many changes for Nighthaunt. It was the Glaive Stalkers, which are the new Legends unit, is actually quite good. Even though it's the one disappearing in 6 months' time. And they basically, I think, removed one pip of rend from them. And then, interestingly, some of the stuff went down. I think Glaive Stalkers went up in points, and then Hex Wraiths and Dreadblade Harrows, which are two of the units I have, went down in points because they're nowhere near as good anymore.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I mean, it's interesting. I got the vibe that the change to the Nighthaunt Legends unit was... one of those, these are actually still quite good. We don't want people to buy these, so make them rubbish.
Well, you can't buy them anymore.
Well, exactly.
They've not been available for a while, so it's sort of odd that they even bothered, and even more puzzling that they called it out as one of the main things at the top of the article, and was like, why? It's such a nothing burger, as they say.
Well, it's because they want to make sure that.
Get back down there, Nighthaunt. Get to the bottom of the league. Get down there.
They also did as well, didn't they, with Nighthawk? They actually went into your Regiment of Renown and changed it so as obviously the Regiment of Renown reflects the current rules. So.
Yeah, because before to be honest, that wasn't as bad as I thought. So originally they were 4-up armor saves, and most of the army went to a 6-up armor save. And these two are character. Well, one's a character, one's a war machine, and they both have a 5-up. Armor save, so I'm actually quite happy with that. Kurdos obviously gets that anyway in his regular version of him. The Black Coach though went up 20 points. It's now 300 points, which is quite a lot for what is a coach, but I think it has a lot of utility. And yeah, its save's gone down, but I'm glad it's not 6-up, so it's still going to be quite viable, I think. Just because it has some interesting stuff to it. Though I suspect the Black Coach Scourge of Garan version isn't going to be as popular because they got rid of the Black Coach army rule, like subfaction, which gave everyone a better invuln save. Not invuln save, ward save.
Yeah. Did the it was the soggy version that went up in points?
I think so, yeah. I could be wrong. Because to do the regular version, which is basically a carbon copy of the old one, which was terrible. Yeah. I think it was the Scourge of Garan one.
Yeah, Scourge of Garan being soggy in AOS parlance, if none of you are familiar with that. Cause
the cool kids.
The cool kids, yeah. SOG, SOG. So, soggy. Otherwise, I mean... As an Iron Jaws player, I feel pretty underwhelmed by what they've thrown my way. As a Skaven player, I feel pretty underwhelmed what they've thrown our way as well. Like, I don't feel like very much has happened with the Skaven necessarily. I mean, there's been a few minor points tweaks here and there, so they've reduced the points of some characters that no one was really taking. I'm not entirely sure whether it's going to meaningfully incentivize people to take them now. But yeah, on the whole, nothing really has changed with Skaven. This balance update was more about addressing KO and cities. Khazran Overlords, or KO, basically arrived on the scene with their new book and got loads and loads and loads of buffs, basically, because they became really, really oppressive. And they've essentially dealt with a multitude of those really kind of strong abilities. They had an enhancement that could turn off ward saves, and they could do it basically every of their turns. They could just go up and go, no ward saves for you, blah, 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 blah. Whereas now it's once per battle, which is a big change, basically. So now, once per battle, you lose a ward save, blah, 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 blah. But it's once per battle. It's not every single battle round, or every single, one of their turns. So, that's a nice big change. And then there's some other things that they kind of tweaked, which probably don't need us to go into extensive levels of detail, but they've hit Khazran Overlords really hard. And then on the Cities of Sigmar side of things, there was this character called Zenestra, Pontifrax Zenestra, who basically was a soggy character that they introduced, who had crazy buffs, and they've basically gone, no more of that. So she is much less of a linchpin unit to cities. I don't necessarily feel like cities are going to massively struggle, though, without her. I just think that they're better with her than they are without her, or at least the way that she was.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that they are in a bad spot regardless of that. I think cities overall are in a strong position, but yeah, I'll be interested to see what the changes to her specifically will bring about. But yeah, most of the real tweaks outside of KO and cities is basically the points changes. And I'm not really sure the points changes have been significant enough to really mix things up. But definitely they've knocked down the things at the top of the meta. So hopefully we'll start to see a bit more of a happy medium and some things kind of, resurfacing, I suppose. But we'll see. Any thoughts or feels, Phil, that you wanted to address?
Yeah, I mean, slightly underwhelming, but as you say, it's a sort of a meta update, so it's only really affecting tournament players, really. The tweaks to Nighthorn sort of average, not particularly unsurprising, I don't think. Not great either, I don't think. As I said, some of my stuff went down in points, which is fine. But also, I think, it doesn't need to be a great sweeping update, because we had that recently with the Scourge of Garan stuff being introduced with all of those data sheets. I mean, I think people can dine on those for a while. I sort of hope that if that's going to last for the next year, that we maybe see at 6 months from when they came out, another round of not data sheets, battle profiles. I think that's what they're called. I can never remember. Basically, some new
War Scrolls.
units. War Scrolls, that's it, yeah. 10 points to you. Hopefully we can get some new injection into the game that way via some Scourge of Garan War Scrolls. Whereas this one's just a sort of ticking things over, knocking a few points here and there, which ultimately don't really change a huge amount for most people's armies. It's like maybe you'd probably get an extra enhancement or something that maybe costs some money, but the points are never really big enough to give you an extra unit unless you are already in quite a big deficit. But if they're punishing enough, they might make you no longer be able to take a unit, which sometimes does happen, depending on what you've got.
Yeah. I mean, basically, for the Iron Jaws, one of the weakest performing armies in the game right now, they reduced the points of some of our kind of like key units by as much as 20 points. But the Ard Boys didn't see a massive reduction. I think they came down by like 10 points overall. So I think they were 180 before, now they're 170. The Brutes have meaningfully reduced. So the Brutes were 200 points and they've had a 10% reduction and are now at 180, which is pretty meaningful. So now 10 Brutes is 360 points rather than 400. So that ain't bad. More Crushers have come down by 20 points respectively. So that's pretty cool. So now you can run a list of 5 more Crushers, and 5 more Crushers are 1,600 points. So you still got like 400 points to play with once you add 5 more Crushers, which is pretty mad considering at the start of this edition you couldn't run 5 more Crushers. Now you can do it with change. So,
wow. That's mad.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my Warhammer World event that we did in August. I was looking at that list that I think was 2,000 points exactly, is now 1,980. So it's gone down in 20 points. And I was like, but I've got 3 units that went down at least 10 points each. But then I realised I also... No, 4 units, because I've got 3 units of Hex Wraiths and Dreadblade Harrows. But then I've also got a reinforced unit of Glaive Wraith Stalkers, which I think went up by 20 points, I guess. So maybe that's where the differential lied. Like I said, I can't do anything with those 20 points. It's basically a sort of a meaningless update, really. Unless I was to take a specific spell law that maybe cost some money. Not money, points. I think that would be the only way to do it.
Yeah, I definitely hope that when we get to the next update that we'll start to see some more meaningful buffs for the armies in the in the lower percentile range. Although I will say, actually, I think the Gloomspite Gits got quite a nice little update for their Wolf Riders. So they used to have an ability that I think only triggered in their phase, but now I think it triggers in all movement phases, so I think it goes off in the enemy phase as well. So they've added some interesting movement shenanigans, which is kind of cool. And Gloomspite have been very low down in the in the win rate side of things for a while. So it's cool that they're getting some love. But yeah, Iron Jaws are just in a rough spot at the moment. I still love them. I think they're a fun army to play, but they definitely could use a boost. Although I am tempted, Phil, to pick up 3 more Crusher kits. If it wasn't for the fact they're 100 quid each, I'd be well up for it.
I was going to mention that to you because I did see. I think someone did really well at an event with 3 of them. I think, and obviously you could take 5, but that's a bit much.
I've been having a really.
But
fun
I mean,
time.
I don't think that's a very fun list for anyone other than you.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not that durable though, mate, because you're talking like a Maw Crusher is 18 health with a 3-up save. So
true, it's a lot more killable this edition than the last one.
Well, that's the thing. It's got the equivalent health of a reinforced unit. In fact, it's got less health than a reinforced unit of Liberators.
Fair.
So if you looked over the tabletop and went, "Oh, a 10-man unit of Liberators, how will I ever get rid of that?" I mean, that's all. A Maw Crusher is less health than that, you know.
Mad.
But the advantage of the Maw Crusher is it hits a lot harder than 10 Liberators, but. Not by a long shot, to be honest with you, but, you know.
How many points are they?
Now they're 320.
Ooh, okay. Same price as a coach.
Yeah, 320, 18 health, 3-up save, movement 10. Got a ranged attack, which is terrible, but can chip a few little wounds. Its rampage is super fun. Basically, roll a d3 on a 2+ on a d3, so a 3+ on a d6. You do the mortal damage, and then you roll 2d6, and then you basically pile in that distance. So you could have as much as a 12-inch pile-in move. Again, there's nuance to how that works, though, because you can use it to pull other units into combat. But the way that you activate the pile-in in Age of Sigmar is you have to declare the target of that move, and you have to end the move closer to that thing. So essentially you do have this weirdness of the whole situation where you can't. Yeah, it's a weird situation how it works. But long story short is it's an interesting model with some interesting shenanigans. I think 5 is overkill, but I think 3 is probably the sweet spot. But what I've been enjoying is Kragnos and 2 Maw Crushers. I think Kragnos and 2 Maw Crushers is tip top, because Kragnos then also gives them the 3d6 charges, which is super
true.
useful.
That makes it good. Yeah.
But no reduction in points of Kragnos. He's still 580. Absolutely mad amount of points for Kragnos.
Yeah, I mean, all the big ones are expensive.
I love him though. He's so fun.
I can imagine.
He's so fun.
He looks like a big thing to deal with.
I adding Kragnos to my army has been a game changer. I think he's like, I know all of us destruction players get our noses out of joint about the fact that all our best lists have Kragnos in them, but he's so.
Is there a reason why though?
Yeah, exactly. He's a blast. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, the balance update seems all right. Pretty mid, but ultimately, the state of the game is quite good right now. Catherine Overlords needed solving, and hopefully this will, mix things up in a really interesting way. Yeah, we'll see what comes next.
Yeah.
But,
I'm actually interested to see what the win rate for Nighthaunt currently is with the new battle tome, because obviously everyone lost their minds about how bad it was, but I wonder what that plays out to actually be like in events, and how well they're doing, or if they're just now distinctly average.
So Nighthaunt are 5th in the latest stats that Honest Wargaming accrues. So yeah, they get 3+ out of, so they win 3 out of 5.
No, that's average.
Well, yeah, but they're basically they're in the top 5. So basically, the top 5 at the moment in terms of like 5-0 results and the rest of it. Basically, if you look at their win rate right now, they are in the top 6. So they are, well, they're 6th. So Catherine Overlord, Cities of Sigmar, Cruel Boys, Daughters of Cain, Lumineth Realm Lords, and then Nighthaunt in 6th place.
Interesting. I wonder how much of that is due to the Glaive Wraith Stalkers being the sleeper hit of the battle tome because they weren't in the battle tome.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it, and that's obviously why they've been neutered to address that side of things. But yeah, if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, it's Iron Jaws, Gloomspite Gits, and then Seraphon at the very bottom. So it could be worse. There could be a Seraphon player, I suppose. But
True.
I do love those Seraphon minis, though. They're so cool.
Oh, they're gorgeous. Yeah,
mate, stunning. But that's it, right? Like, I think that's the thing with AOS. I feel like the game's still in a good spot at the moment. But yeah, ultimately, we need to see some love for some of the lesser or lower performing factions to try and hopefully bring them up, and hopefully we'll get that in December time. But we'll see. I still feel like I can win with Iron Jaws. Like, I tend to, with my Iron Jaws armies, when I go to events, I tend to go 2 and 1 on in like 1 days, and I tend to go like 3 and 2 in like 5-game weekend long events. But I put in a lot of reps with them, so I'm kind of used to.
Well, exactly. You know the tricks, and I think that's the thing when you're not quite a lifelong Iron Jaws, but they are your main army, even though you have others.
Yeah.
When you're someone that predominantly plays as one faction, you tend to be much better than other people that sort of dip in and out.
I do miss my 3rd edition Iron Jaws, though. They were so fun.
God, they were good.
Yeah, they were great. I loved 3rd edition Iron Jaws, which is chef's kiss, like, so good. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's rose tinted glasses because it was our first edition of AOS, but I did really enjoy and look back very fondly on those games of AOS, and we did one session of a campaign which we never got to finish, which I
loved that.
Still hurts me because it was actually really fun and interesting. And I guess you could technically port it over, but you'd have to redo all the rules, I think, for it. But the main campaign bit would survive, but all the bonuses that you could get, you'd have to make sure that was compatible and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a good addition, I thought, and I thought the armies maybe had a bit more characterful flavour to them and had some sort of interesting rules mechanics that you don't see in this edition. I think a lot of them, maybe there was some weird jank in it as well, which has gone.
Yeah, but I liked the jank. I mean, I just felt like there was lots of. I thought it was a fun mixture, but I understand why they've changed it, what they've changed it to, and But I keep hold of all my old 3rd edition books, and I've inadvertently been expanding that collection because my mate Ash down the club keeps handing me new books from his old library. So I've just recently been given the Bone Reaper Battle Tome, the Cities of Sigmar Battle Tome, the Nighthorn Battle Tome.
Nice.
So I keep kind of accruing old 3rd Age of Sigmar books, and I'm like, I only need to buy like a handful more, and then I'd have the complete collection. And it's like, you know me, Phil, with a collection. Oh God, because I do. The thing is, hyperbole notwithstanding, blah blah blah. Age of Sigmar 3rd edition was such a good game and so much fun, and has such a special place in my heart. I almost feel like I should just 100% it, because like as a book collection, because I'd actually love to go back and play it again.
Oh, for sure. We've been talking about doing like retrospectives of our older editions of 40k and AOS. I think would be great. Part of me would love to try First Ed AOS, whether that's a General's Handbook version or the core vanilla version. Not that I have an army that I could play, because obviously Nighthaunt didn't come out until 2nd edition. But I'd still love to give it a go and see what it was about.
Yeah, it might be fun actually, I suppose, to go back and revisit the old AOS and see if I can find any enjoyment in it. The game was weird. I think if we were going to go back and play old Age of Sigmar 1st edition, I'd probably want to play it with like the first General's Handbook as opposed to
because I think the very least. Yeah, that I would go. Let's do the what was it called? Search for Hammond. The search for the Sigmar's hammer. Whose name I can't recall. Galmagraz.
Yes.
The Hammer. Yeah, so there's like a sort of campaign book with missions in. I think that would be the way to do it, and not just do, as you say, out the box AOS, because then it's at least got some structure to it, right? So, and then you can throw in a General's Handbook for the points and things like that. So, yeah, it could be interesting for sure.
Oh, mate, totally. No, that would be cool. We didn't mention it at any point during the podcast as well, and I know we were just talking about AOS, but just to say, new Terminator box set, double thumbs up, just to finish on that. That is like, I mean, literally, Games Workshop is low on money. Open up the Terminator box.
Well, so what's interesting, this year has not had a major Games Workshop release. It's obviously had Horus Heresy.
Yes, Horus Heresy.
It hasn't had 40k, and it hasn't had Age of Sigmar. And 40k is like their big year, so that's why they do the 3-year release cycle, because they want... Basically, if it's not 40k, it's not really a big release for a game, even though it is Heresy. So it's interesting that on like this off year, I'm calling it an off year because yes, it's Heresy, but they've basically gone on a year we're not producing 40k. And interestingly, the year before you're doing a new edition of 40k, you're going to bring out all these Space Marines. Basically, Space Marines is what's going to bolster the Games Workshop coffers in an off year. So it is interesting that, next year we're going to see more Space Marines because it'll be 40k 11th edition. And this year they've gone, okay, guys, we haven't done Space Marines for a while. Let's turn on that tap and rake in some money, basically.
Oh, totally. I think this is it, though, isn't it? It's like, not only is that Terminator box set filled with gorgeous miniatures that 40k players love, but it's also just a box set filled with stuff that you're just going to want. And it's that thing, isn't it, where it's just a perfect product, because I can't think of too many people who aren't going to pick it up. I'm going to pick it up. I'm literally yes, give me that. I like Terminators, but I've never been really sold on them for my Minotaur's army. But I sort of looked at that and was like, oh, do I want to finally do Terminators, or would I buy them and actually paint them up as something else, just as a small force of something else? But I think ultimately I will do them for my Minotaurs and sort of try and add more to that collection, because I've sort of parked that army for quite some time. But yeah, so it seems like a good value box set. The only thing it's missing is a librarian in Terminator armor. That's what it needs, but it's enough good stuff as it is. Oh, totally, mate. And the thing is if you were to purchase, well, I wouldn't recommend you purchase the GW Combat Patrol, but if you were to purchase the start collecting box set and try and sell the NIDs on eBay for probably not very much profit, because no one wants those NID models right now, but give it a couple of years, you'll probably get some returns on those investments. But yeah, like, I think that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's a very viable collection in terms of those two elements.
And it's also, because obviously we do doubles events quite a bit, it's a great doubles force, because that plus that box set of Terminators, which is 5 standard Terminators, 10 assault Terminators, plus the captain and Captain, Ancient, and Chaplain. Plus, if you had someone like Lysander in Terminator armor, or the new Calgar in Terminator armor, will get you to around 1,000 points, depending on how Calgar's going to be pointed as a new option in Terminator armor. So, like, that is a great, like, cool 1,000 points of army done. Yeah,
totally. No, it's great. And it's great to see, because that's, representative of quite some good value for a change. When you looked at, like, when they did the Krieg box, or even now when they're like, oh, look, the Krieg Combat Patrol. I mean, that was cool, I suppose, but it's that thing where you're like, yeah, but that's not a lot of points, is it, for 150 quid or whatever it is, whereas at least with these Terminators, you get most of the way towards completing an army. Like, yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you could say, oh, it's just going to ruin the meta and everyone will be running tons of Terminators, but I feel like that's been the case for most of this edition anyway, but people have been put off by having to convert Assault Terminators with the new ones or just run the regular ones.
I don't think that many people have been running Assault Terminators on the regular, or not Assault Terminators.
No,
I don't think that
just
many people
the
are running
regular
Terminators. Because...
Oh, do you not think?
Mate, honestly, I do it because I think they're amazing, and I've been consistently running all Terminator lists across the. But I've been banging on about loving
Dark
First
Angels,
Company.
those, yeah.
Oh yeah, Dark Angels as well, admittedly, but yeah, I've been doing First Company stuff as well, and that's been fun. But yeah, anyway, long story short is I'm really happy to see it, and I'm very excited to get it, and I'm very excited to start running lists with just all Terminators and having a laugh. Admittedly, you can't do all Terminators, but you can get close. I mean, Dark Angels, you can definitely do an all Terminator list because, 3 units of Deathwing Knights is 750 points, and then you add in, your 1,000 points worth of...
Surely you can get to 2,000 points with Terminators because if
you take them as 10-man units, yes.
10-man units, yeah.
And characters, yeah.
And plus characters, yeah.
Yeah, but if you try and do it otherwise, I think if you do them as 5-man units, and I think the 5-man units are more efficient overall, but whatever. I am always taking 10-man units of Terminators. I've got 2 big blocks of 10 Termies that I've been taking on the regular, and then, it's fun. I love it. Nice. Anyway, episode 220 in the bag. We're not going to be releasing an episode next week, but we will be releasing episode 221 week commencing the 6th of October. Bear with us. We'll be with you before you know it. But thank you very much for listening. It's always a pleasure. Hope you enjoyed our rant on the topic of Imperial Knights and a little bit of AOS. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time when we return. Until then, anything you want to say, Phil?
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.